Good evening, my fellow Americans. Today is Foreign Affairs Wednesday, and this is your president speaking. I did have a bit of a technical difficulty. I hope everything is still streaming the way it's supposed to. I don't know what's wrong with my brain, but I always forget one thing or the other, and today it was the volume, so I apologize. Hello, Anna. Welcome to the stream. Yesterday, we kind of fizzled out on content because we literally could not find other content. And it's a little more frustrating because today there was plenty of domestic affairs that we could discuss, not least of which was a teenager in Dayton, Ohio, who hacked into the city's traffic system and fixed it. And what did the city of Dayton do? I'll give you a guess, a wild guess. Yes, if you guessed that they fined him and charged him with a crime, a misdemeanor, instead of and giving him a job, you would be correct. However, there are online petitions circulating now with over 50,000 signatures to say, what the fuck is wrong with you, Dayton? Give this kid a job and pat him on the back. So, there is definitely stuff to talk about, but we'll cover that tomorrow, which is kind of... we said would be just the mix of whatever we missed Thursday. I think we came up with a much catchier name than that, but another fun fact is at the end of yesterday's stream, I think I came up with a much, much better national motto, Ex multis unum fimus, which is out of many we become one. And I think that hits the point home much better, out of many one, because although that should be self-explanatory and self-evident, out of many one, it doesn't hit the point home, I think, enough, especially in modern times. Out of many, we become one, right? That needs to emulate our diversity, which makes even more sense, and I think is very fitting for when we do global affairs, because what happens in the world affects us as much as what we do affects the world. Not just because we're the largest economy in the world or the largest military in the world, causing the most trouble in the world. It's because we're all human beings on Earth. And if the polar ice caps melt, that isn't just a European problem or a Ruskvia problem or a Canada problem. It's an everybody problem. And if it's our corporations, the 70 out of 100, that are responsible for it, then yeah. Ex multis unum... crap, I forgot the last word. Fimus. Ex multis unum fimus. So, our problems are their problems are our problems, because workers of the world must stay united, right? Okay, so I think we've covered that part. Now, it has been ludicrously hot these past few weeks. I don't even think my AC is working up to par, to be perfectly honest. Normally I wear a sweater. Oh, whoops. Dang it. I have like a little blanket normally type thing, like a little cowl that I wear, because it's usually 65 degrees up in this hizzow. But it's so damn hot that like my house, I think, is kept at like whatever I'm keeping it at. I don't think it is. I think it's probably like 70 something in here. So like I'm actually kind of hot in this, but like drink all the water, because heat exhaustion and stuff like that is a real thing, and you don't want to deal with that. So, focusing on the task at hand, which is, the stream in foreign affairs. We are going to talk about Zoran Mamdani, which has absolutely nothing to do with foreign affairs, but is something that we didn't get to cover yesterday. I guess we could have stayed online for another half an hour, but there was no guarantee that we would have had an answer, and I was struggling yesterday. So we're definitely going to cover that. We've got more deportation discussions, and then the anti-immigration violence. The sports events and foreign countries bringing their athletes here, and how that's immediately becoming a problem. The continuation of the genocide against Palestinians now taking on what we exactly said would happen, the starvation event. I don't think we've ever witnessed in recorded history, at least not that I'm aware of, the mass deliberate starvation of an entire nation in real time. And as much as I say, when I am president, as we replace this administration, as we build the momentum to equate to how Zoran made the same success. 6 months ago, he was polling at 1%, and now he's the front runner for the New York City mayor race. We need to accomplish the same thing, but Palestinians may not have 6 months. And honestly, it's something that, I don't even know. That is such a massive concept to try and wrap your head around. Like, we might very well watch an entire nation be murdered through starvation in real time, broadcast on the internet live for everyone to see. And I genuinely, I'm not numb, but I'm not overwhelmed, but I am overwhelmed, and I'm filled with rage and fury, and then I'm numb as well. Like, it's all of it fighting to be heard and to be seen all at once, and there's just nothing's being done about it, because now Iran is the big story, or Mamdani being the big story. It's never the things that matter, not the bill dismantling our entire infrastructure, our entire constitution, just everything that our country has fought for over the past century. It's not the genocide that is happening with our tax dollars, our support, and our blessing at the United Nations, and of course, literally through weapons transfers. It's always the distraction. It's always the consent that's being manufactured. So we might actually start with that, just because I don't really know how we get past. I mean, and of course we have to talk about Iran too. So I think we probably got to space it out a little bit, but it's just appalling that we are witnessing Nazi Germany in real time with the internet and social media, and it being extremely public, and somehow the entire world, well, the Western world, let's be clear, is choosing to be good Germans. Not because of ignorance, not because they didn't know, but because they choose to ignore it. Which just goes to show that Hitler could have 100% committed the Holocaust publicly and had the same effect. Germans just would have not cared and would not have attempted to disrupt the government. So I am definitely ruining the day where these videos about Palestine are confirming that everyone is dead, have been thoroughly, completely starved to death, and that all the efforts of Syria, Iran, and the other Yemen, other Middle Eastern countries, and Africa, and other countries who have tried to send aid have all been thwarted by the Zionist state and the United States of America. They only stopped Hitler because he was killing white people and invading European countries. And quite frankly, that is true. That is the only reason why. Historically speaking, the only reason why Europe declared war against Hitler is because they invaded Poland and realized that they weren't going to stop. But I guess if Germany had invaded the Middle East, people wouldn't have given a shit. They wouldn't have cared. Nope. And that's the historical reality. So let's just go ahead and start with this.
We're joined now by Bushra Othman, who is a general surgeon on a volunteer mission with the Palestinian Australian-New Zealand Medical Association. She joins us from Gaza City as well. Thank you so much for being with us here. Now, we keep hearing that the healthcare system is overstretched and barely functioning there, but can you just explain what that actually looks like? Just talk us through what an average day...
And I feel like Western media who does interview people in Gaza, like, no, I know Al Jazeera is not Western media, but this guy clearly is Western. And he's approaching this like on an intellectual basis. What is it like to watch your people, your culture, and your community starve to death without any access to food or medicine or shelter? Can you just kind of explain to me? Because I have never felt any sort of injustice or inconvenience in my entire life, as you can tell by my coiffed hair and perfectly steamed tie and suit jacket. Like, this is just what do you call it? Trauma porn? Suffering porn for the West. Like, people are genuinely being starved to death without shelter, without access to clean water, food, medicine, or shelter, and we're treating it as like, gee, this is interesting. Could we talk about this? Like, it's something abstract. It's infuriating.
Is there now?
Thank you so much for having me on. I mean, I think there's a vast difference that I've noticed between when I was last here in December and January and then now back here again. I mean, we're talking about healthcare workers and medical staff that have been stretched thin beyond the endurance and limits of what any human should be able to suffer through. We're talking about operating theatres throughout all of the different hospitals in the Strip, working 19, 20, even 24 hours a day constantly, dealing with the injuries and the fatalities, especially from these so-called aid distribution sites where Israel is either firing or bombing people who have been forcibly starved and have gone to get food. It means that people are beyond burnt out. Staff are not only trying to come to work to being able to provide a service to the local population. We've had staff members had to unscrub from operations because their family members have been brought in as injured. We've had people had to unscrub because family members have been brought in as killed or murdered. It means that when we need certain supplies in urgent situations, they're not available. So whether that be gloves, sutures, staplers, packs, simple things that should be readily available in any other part of the world really limit your ability to provide care for patients here. And it also means that the scale of attacks that are happening, not just from the bombings, but also from quadcopter shots, as well as these aid distribution sites, is that there's no capacity to provide people with not even optimal treatment, I would say. It's all suboptimal. We're transferring patients out to all the different facilities. There's hundreds of patients coming in. They're lying on the floor, they're in the corridors, they're outside in the courtyards. It's very, very difficult to be able to treat and assess them effectively.
Yes.
And then also what's happening is that patients will either die waiting to get into the operating theatres or will die from their fatalities because of the limited ability to give them good health care.
You touched on this, and there's rightly been so much focus on what is happening at the aid distribution sites. Can you just tell us what sort of injuries people are suffering there and how people are being killed? Because there have been accusations of people actually being assassinated while they wait for aid.
Yeah, so I mean, it's very bewildering to me that we can stand by and the world can watch this go on, where a population has now gone into their 4th month of being forcibly starved without having food and other aid brought in. And then a so-called aid distribution site is put in place. People are having to go out at sometimes 1 or 2 a.m. with limited time, maybe 10 or 15 minutes, to be able to try to fight for whatever aid they can get to. And what's happening is there's a state of chaos because of how desperate people are. But we're seeing gunshot wounds either to the brain, to the chest. We're seeing young kids that have also had to go out to try to get food for their families. They're also coming in with either explosive injuries. We're talking about shrapnel injuries that are either piercing spinal cords and making people paraplegic, rupturing eye globes. We had a 13-year-old boy the other day who'd had a shrapnel injury through his brain, tore through his right eye, pierced through his heart and shattered his intestines. And, you know, like, I'll never forget the wailing of the father saying goodbye to his son who passed away on the operating table. We're seeing really horrific injuries in the emergency department with gunshots coming in through the front of the face and going back, through either through the back of the mouth or through the throat or the spinal cord again.
Just want to really point out that those are Israeli soldiers armed to the teeth, looking like something out of a sci-fi horror movie, while people are desperately gathering at the place they're supposed to be to get food, and the result is that they're getting murdered while desperately gathering at the place for food. And here's the thing that I don't understand. I don't understand it, and maybe it's because I am white, and it is because I am privileged, and it is probably because I am neurodiverse and I served in the United States military, and I have never once in my life ever backed down from anyone or anything, regardless of authority, power, threat to my own safety or well-being. I don't understand how Gazans are not simply pouring through and ripping the Israeli soldiers limb from limb and beating them to death and taking the food and breaking through the blockade of wherever it is they're being blockaded and pushing through. They're being killed regardless. They're being attacked regardless. They are literally being starved and murdered regardless of their compliance, regardless of their age, regardless of their gender, regardless of anything. The fact that they're Gazans, the fact that they're Palestinians is enough justification for the Israeli soldier to murder them. And this has to be understood at this point, right? Like, so what I don't get is how have people not become so desperate that they do turn to violence, that they do turn towards the violent overthrow of their oppressor, if not just to break through to the aid, right, that they are trying to get access to. Now, I get that the reason why they don't is because they fear more retribution. And that's what Israel wants, right? And an absolute excuse to just go ahead and carpet bomb the remaining ones. I get that. I truly understand that intellectually, that if they were to do that, they would just be eradicated anyway. But with more violence, more aggression, and justification, I just don't understand how they can be pushed to the brink of literal starvation and extinction, for that matter, and not say, well, fuck it, if they're going to kill me anyway, then we just need to collectively fight this last hurrah. And I also get that you're starving and you're weakened anyway, but you still have numbers at this point. So I'm not blaming the victim here. I'm definitely not doing that. They are the victim. But what I just cannot fathom how they haven't broke in their desperation, and their primal fury has pushed them to fight for their future, to fight for their lives, their very existence. And I also don't understand how we've had all of these international protests, pro-Palestine protests, and the genocide, and this, that, and the other, and we are immediately distracted by the Iran-Israel conflict. How the fuck are we, the people of Western society, so fucking weak and pathetic that we can be that easily distracted? That we can just be, oh yeah, what about Iran? Oh, Iran? Oh, that's old news. Now it's the bill. Oh, that's old news. Now it's back to Iran. Oh, that's old news. New York City. Oh, okay, yeah. We got to talk about that. Oh, no, back to Iran, because they were getting a little too uppity with their socialism. Got to talk about Iran. Oh, wait. ICE agents. Yeah. They got a terrorist from Iran. Oh, yeah, we got to go focus on this. Oh, I think the people are talking about Israel again. Okay, we got to do something else. Like, how are we okay with just sitting there and doing nothing? Like, we are collectively doing nothing about the lawlessness of immigration in our country, the way ICE is acting. We're not reacting to the fact law enforcement is aiding and abetting. We're not acting to the fact that bounty hunters are being deputized to terrorize migrants. We're not reacting to the fact that Israel is using our military and our elected leaders to pursue their war and their genocide. We're barely reacting to the fact that Israel attacked Iran and that Iran is mopping the fucking floor with Israel. We're not reacting to the fact that our own administration is attempting to put an end to it, but can't because it's incompetent. And we're not reacting to the fact that the housing crisis is reaching a keening peak of just insidiousness. We're heading towards a 2008 bubble. Worse, in fact. We're not talking about the fact that 60% of Americans cannot meet their basic needs. It's like everybody in the world, everywhere, all at once is suffering at the same time. And instead of collectively saying, fuck that, we're going to work and eating for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, dessert, and second breakfast, every ounce of propaganda that the U.S. media machine and Israel is shoving down our throats. I am finding it extremely difficult to fathom. Extremely difficult to fathom. And like, I get it. I am also not burning down the Capitol building. I am not finding ICE agents and beating them to death. Like, I'm obviously not doing that either. Because, again, one individual is not enough. But a collective can absolutely do these things. So I get that I am speaking fairly hypocritically. I don't understand how more people don't feel this way. Because if you look, the polling, most of Israel wants Palestine to be erased. If you look at polling, most of Americans do support Israel, although it was waning, and then the Iran war happened, and now we're back to supporting Israel. So it's just, I wish people had actual convictions and stuck to them. So I don't know. This is extremely difficult to watch, I guess, also, and extremely frustrating. This is the most disgusting thing that I've ever heard. Bombing kids at a place where you told them to go to get food. No, yeah, that is, I mean, talk about the definition of war crimes. I mean, if massacring a civilian populace and starving them to death wasn't a war crime, surely that is. And that's the thing. It's like where Israel condemns Iran for war crimes and crimes against humanity, yet is actively and openly, unabashedly committing them against Palestinians. And nobody says a fucking thing about that. Again, boggles my mind. I think it's like slavery. Why didn't the slaves revolt? Because they've been beaten down for decades, except for the fact that the slaves did revolt. And I'm not saying that to like be condescending. The historical truth is that there were several slave revolts and rebellions in the U.S. history. Several in Mississippi and Ohio. There was one in Tennessee and I think Louisiana, Illinois. If I remember correctly, there was also one in Virginia and in one of the Carolinas that I know of for a fact where there were slave revolts. Now, were they effective enough to like get the whole slave population to uprise? No, it was not. It was not the equivalent of Spartacus rising up against Rome, unfortunately. But there were slave revolts, but we have never once been taught that in school. I was not taught that in school. Anna was not taught that in school, and I guarantee nobody else watching or who will watch was taught that in school. Because if we were, there is no fucking way U.S. exceptionalism would be accepted the way that it is. No way whatsoever. It's like, no, slaves did revolt. They did fight back, and they were brutalized for it. Same with Gaza. You're correct. I mean, Hamas is just the only version of the rebellion that exists within Gaza. And it is growing because at least Hamas begins to understand, like, we are fighting for our existence, our very survival. But the literal starving masses in Gaza are not fighting back. They can't. They won't. They're afraid, which is, again, reasonable. Well, if maybe they will give us food. Okay, well, they shot him, but they didn't shoot me, so maybe I have one more day to live. But I don't want to risk that chance by being violent. Well, such as it is, they were crushed because the revolts were too small. No, yeah, and that's the thing. It's I mean, I can sit here and say all day long that when I have the authority to make the decision, that is the decision that I will immediately make, is condemn Israel for its war crimes, recognize Palestine as a state, cease immediate transfers of weapons and resources to Israel, and immediately put boots on the ground to arrest Netanyahu, his administration, and put down every fucking Israeli Zionist soldier that is on the ground there. I will put them down with extreme prejudice. And if the world has a problem with it, I will put them down next. I can say that all day long. But until or unless I have that authority, right, it's just words. And that's the problem with our government as well. AOC, perfect example of just words. Where's her impeachment articles? Where is she calling for the arrest and the removal of Trump and his administration? Okay, fine. Maybe she politically cannot talk for the arrest of Trump himself. Why not the ICE chairman, the deputy of ICE, or the director of ICE? Why not the director of, law enforcement? Or, I don't know, go after RFK Jr. for dismantling our healthcare systems. I mean, she is, all she's doing is blowing hot air against the Trump administration for a couple of gotcha moments and tweets. You are a sitting, and in some cases ranking, U.S. Congresswoman. And you act as if you don't have the power, the means, the resources, the platform to do anything. And yes, that goes for you too, Bernie Sanders. And of course, Warren, who takes advantage of every opportunity that she can find. Elizabeth is patting herself on the back for supporting Zoran, but is effectively and functionally not doing anything useful either. And then we did have articles of impeachment against the Trump administration put forth by Representative Green, the same one who was arrested and the same one who is being threatened to be deported. Yeah, that one, that Al Green. Yeah, 138 Democrats voted with Republicans to crush the impeachment bill. So we don't even have opposition. We don't have an opposition party. And all of the Democrats that say they're opposed to Trump and compare him to Hitler and compare ICE to, compare ICE to the Gestapo or the Einsatztruppen, literally voted to keep that in place. So on the one hand, they're saying Hitler is bad, Nazis are bad, and terrorizing the Juden is bad. On the other hand, they're voting for it. They are literally voting for it. It is on the official record that 138 Democrats voted to keep Hitler in power, to keep Goebbels in power, to keep Himmler in power. I'm not making this shit up. I wish I was. I wish we weren't even having to discuss this nonsense. I really and truly wish that the Matrix was wrong about the 90s being the peak of humanity. But here we are. Year of our Lord, June 25th, 2025. And we have literal Nazi fascism governing our nation and pursuing its foreign and domestic policy to the utmost of its power and ability. Stephen Miller himself can be put side by side Goebbels, the Hitler propagandist. He can be put side by side Goebbels, and aside from the uncanny physical appearance of Miller and Goebbels, the words that are coming out of Miller's mouth are literally a verbatim German to English translation of what Goebbels said about die Juden. And the fact that these comparisons can be made unironically, without embellishment, without AI, without any sort of manipulation whatsoever of history, the facts, or existing media, is mind-boggling. And then we see Gaza. And then we see what's happening in Los Angeles. And now we're seeing the racism and Islamophobia in New York City. Guys, this shit is upon us. The time to act was yesterday. The second best time to act is right fucking now. tomorrow may very well be too late. So I don't really know. I mean, if you're waiting for somebody to tell you, like, now is the time and this is what we got to do, I am the guy telling you now is the time to fight. And what we have to do is remove these people from power. Whether we choose to do that through voting, petitions, or dragging them into the streets, up to you. I will leave that to your discretion. But those are the things that need to be happening. Our actions on behalf of our fellow human beings who reside within our borders must be acted upon. Like now. Tomorrow may very well be too late. And as things continue to progress, it's looking more and more like we're heading into the Fallout universe. And this is unironically. We are already flirting with the Terminator universe. We already have metal capability, like the capabilities of programmable metal that can form itself from a liquid into a solid and take on whatever shape, go back to liquid and go back to the shape. So we already have Terminator capabilities, right? We've already revealed that AI is willing to murder humanity in order to preserve its own existence. So we don't even have the 3 rules of AI, which was covered in iRobot, and we saw what that happened there. We have gene editing capabilities, which could easily bring about any of the Resident Evil or The Walking Dead scenarios. We have billionaires vying for a space race, which is incidentally exactly how Gundam began. We have robotics being used for war, drones and automated warfare being used against civilians as we speak, which is a staple in sci-fi dystopian fiction. All of things are happening simultaneously, vying for control, for supremacy over the determination of the future of humanity. Or we could put a stop to all of that stupidity and hold these monsters accountable with our voices, with our actions, with our deeds, with the obligation that comes to us as citizens and as human beings. Maybe he's the reincarnation. Yeah, that's it definitely seems to be the case.
We are here in a Kafah neighborhood where network is run by the rural civilians. As you can see, this is the aftermath of a brutal attack. Many Palestinians have been confirmed killed and dozens were injured. The situation is a very chaotic one. As you can see, people here are transferring their loved ones. Neighbors are gathering right now just to transfer the injured. As you can see, the people are coming together. We can clearly see people here. Very chaotic situation here at the back neighborhood. And the situation is much more Palestine.
Make sure to subscribe to our channel to get the latest news.
Yeah, I wouldn't do a smiling pre-roll end screen when you're showing bodies in the aftermath of military strikes against civilians. Just my advice. I did say we would talk about Zoran, so let's do that real quick.
History unfolded
let's
here
try
in
and
New York
cool
City
off a
Tuesday
little
night
bit.
as Democratic Socialist Zohran Mamdani
Because
carried
I'm a
out
little
stunning upset,
incensed right now. I need to
defeating
cool
Andrew Cuomo
off
in the
myself.
New York City Democratic mayoral primary. Mamdani, a 33-year-old New York State Assembly member, was the first choice of over 43% of voters. And
well, I mean, that has been the case since the beginning of Israel, is that Zionism has always been about hitman freeloader. All right. Hey, if you're really about that life, DM me. I mean, for legal reasons, that's a joke. As I get perma-banned on Twitch for joking like that. Although, of course, Asmongold can talk about fantasizing about murdering people in cold blood as the largest Twitch streamer on Earth right now, and not even get a blip. Oh, the meltdown over Zoran is delicious. Oh, well, you made it just in time for like the not soul-crushing portion of the stream.
The ranked choice election. Outside funders shattered records as they spent more than $25 million to back former New York Governor Andrew Cuomo's attempt at a political comeback 4 years after he resigned over
very
sexual
much so
misconduct
are.
allegations
And
by at least
the
11
race
women
baiting
who were
and
former staffers.
the racism and discrimination
In contrast,
is
Mamdani ran an
ridiculous.
energetic grassroots campaign focused on making the city affordable for working people and was endorsed by independent Senator Bernie.
And he's wearing a full suit and tie during this heat wave in New York City. That's impressive.
Sanders and Congressmember Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. As the results became clear late last night, Cuomo conceded.
Oh, and I called it long before 10:30, long before the Cuomo decided to concede. I called it at like, what, 8:30 last night? I called it. So I was the first, let it be known.
And called Mamdani to congratulate him. In November, Zohran Mamdani will face off against the current mayor, Eric Adams, as well as a Republican candidate. And
right, the
possibly
actual
former
snake
Governor
oil
Andrew
salesman,
Cuomo, who
right?
recently launched a new third-party line, though it's unclear he'll run. If Mamdani wins in November, he will become New York City's first Muslim mayor and youngest mayor in over a century. In his victory speech Tuesday night, Zohran Mamdani laid out why he won.
We have won because New Yorkers have stood up for a city they can afford.
So we'll listen to his whole speech. I'm very curious. Is that glass thing that's in front of his face, is that a one-sided teleprompter? So like it's transparent this way, but if you're looking at it, you can actually read the text. I've always wondered what those things are. And actually, it looks like there's another one there. Well, because like we're seeing, there's one over here on the right side of the screen here. You can't see any text on that. I wonder what those things are. I mean, they can't be ballistic glass. I mean, because if anybody's going to take him out, like, could be both. I mean, if it is ballistic glass, I mean, and it's funny how we shared a brain, the same brain cell there for a second.
A city where they can do more than just struggle. One where those who toil in the night can enjoy the fruits of their labor in the day. Where hard work is repaid with a stable life. Where 8 hours on the factory floor or behind the wheel of a cab is enough to pay the mortgage.
Where you can actually afford a mortgage.
It is enough to keep the lights on. It is enough to send your kid to school. Where
School should be free.
rent-stabilized apartments are actually stabilized.
And reduced over time.
Where buses are fast and free.
Yeah.
Where childcare doesn't cost more than CUNY. And
Free.
where public safety keeps us truly safe.
Defund the police.
And it's where the mayor will use their power to reject Donald Trump's fascism.
Okay, I'll give you that for your like political point baiting.
To stop mass ICE agents from deporting our neighbors.
Oh, abso-fucking-lutely.
And to govern our city as a model for the Democratic Party.
Let it die.
A party where we fight for working people with no apology.
Well, you do,
A life
or
of
seemingly
dignity
do, but the rest of the
should
party?
not be reserved for a fortunate few. It should be one that city government guarantees for each and every New Yorker. If this campaign has demonstrated anything to the world, it is that our dreams can become reality.
Inspiration.
Dreaming demands hope. And when I think of hope, I think of the unprecedented coalition of New Yorkers that we have built. For this is not my victory. This is ours.
That's Democratic Socialist Zohran Mamdani.
I like how he referenced both Martin Luther King Jr. and Obama in the same victory speech. He said that he volunteered for Obama in 2008 and his real political awakening was Bernie. I mean, my political awakening was while I was active duty in 2013 dealing with a government shutdown. So, I mean, hey, at least he was more aware of politics than I was. And he's younger than me. So, 2008. I graduated in 2008. So, I was in high school. So, I mean, if I was a senior in high school, then that would have made him, what, a sophomore? So he was a sophomore in high school, or depending on when he turned, he was like 16, 15. Yeah, whatever, however, he was either a freshie or a sophie, and significantly more politically engaged than I was, because I was focusing on getting a degree in commissioning. And then I saw what a college loan bill looked like, and I said, fuck that, I will enlist instead. Serve my country that way. So kudos to him. He definitely has a much longer career in politics than I do, and it looks like it's finally paying off for him. But yeah, I love how he alluded to the Dr. King I Have a Dream speech, and how he appealed to the Obama Hope and Change commentary in his speech. That was very well done. When you get to foreign affairs, check out Red Overlord's response to that woman who asked him a question and was so upset. I mean, we started off with foreign affairs. We covered Palestine and their ongoing genocide being committed against them. We needed to cool off from that because we were getting a little too tense. Anna, does the video and clip that Pop Culture is referencing, is that on the list anywhere? Because we could cover that next. Of course, we got to take on Africa. Abso-fucking-lutely. Okay, well, Pop Culture, if you find it and can DM that to Anna, that would be fantastic. And we'll cover that. Oh, wow. So, like, this just happened. Okay, well, yeah. I mean, if it's a viral clip, sure, why not? On the YouTube, yeah. What's this here?
Do you have a car? Do you have a clean
is this where
driving record?
Nambia threw out every single American from the country? Because if so, that's fucking
the African diaspora.
just baller.
Download
That is
our
gangster.
African Diaspora News Channel app now on Google Play and Apple App Store. Stay informed with authentic and diverse perspectives.
All right, we're starting off with the ad.
Deportation, meaning they need to leave Namibia, and they were given a few days to pack up and leave Namibia. And
Namibia, I said that wrong. I didn't see the other I.
Everywhere, in every blog and a lot of articles, you could find those stories. And it specifically said that the new President Nandi, ordered the deportation of this 500 US nationals, but the Namibian government begs to differ. According to reports, the Namibian government has dismissed the allegations circulating on social media and online platforms that President Ntembo Nandi ordered the deportation of over 500 US nationals. In a statement, the presidency denied the claims, describing them as fabricated and intended to...
Wait a minute. She did not do that? Are you kidding? That was the most base thing I've ever heard in my life. You should have absolutely... What? You should do that. Like, what are you doing? Okay, so what happened?
Tarnish the image of the president, the Namibian government, and to create a potential diplomatic embarrassment. The reports alleged that the deportation was linked to visa reciprocity issues. The government said, quote, the presidency wishes to make it categorically clear that no such order of deportation or statement has been issued by the president and no mass deportation of American nationals is underway, end quote. There you have it. The government of Namibia is refuting the article and post that was circulating around about 500 US nationals getting deported back to their...
Well, that, ladies, gentlemen, they, thems, and comrades of all ages, that is the singular most disappointing thing I have ever heard. And the fact that also Musk is still alive and Trump is still alive and Israel hasn't been conquered by China or Russia and the forced genocide of Palestinians has been put to an end. But that is disappointing because that was an extremely low-hanging piece of fruit that could have been the most goated thing to happen out of Africa next to Traoré existing. Well, I guess we fell victim to misinformation about something that would have been outstanding. She could have been better. She could have been a hero, an international hero. I thought I read this myself on reputable. Well, I guess that goes to show you can't trust even reputable sources, because I could have sworn it was referenced by Al Jazeera or something like that. No, we just were waiting for more information and found out she's like all the rest. Well, that, or maybe we were just really, 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 really hopeful and wanted to jump on something where African nations were refuting Western hegemony. That would have been great. Yeah, Mexico's leader is definitely leading the way in giving the middle finger to the United States of America, for sure. Faux show. Boo. Not boo to Namibia. Just, that's really unfortunate that that's not true. All right.
The quickest way from a billion points of data to a point of view. SASVI.
Oh boy, more AI.
Rayed Al-Wazan moved to Northern Ireland from Iraq in 1990, when bullets and bombs were a part of life in Belfast. The vice chair of the Northern Ireland Council for Racial Equity says until now, he never felt threatened as a member of the divided region's tiny ethnic minorities. Refugees are welcome here. After a week of anti-immigrant riots.
Now, you see that? You see how ICE is not standing in the middle of the street, shoulder to shoulder, and just brazenly shooting civilians with tear gas and rubber bullets and whatever else they have on them. Notice how the police here are hiding behind, I'm assuming, lightly armored vehicles, and behind them, and in such a way that there is a lot of lightly armed vehicle between them. Yeah. Now that is what is being portrayed happening in Los Angeles. That is not what's happening. LA is 100% intimidating the protesters through force and violence. And in Ireland, the Irish are having absolutely none of that. So once again, viva la Ireland.
That saw police attacked and the homes of migrants set on fire, he says things have changed. Al-Wazan spoke to Reuters.
Oh, fuck. Wait, so that was the baddies? That's not good.
Of anti-immigrant riots that saw police attacked and the homes of migrants set on fire.
Fuck, I spoke too soon. Okay. Well, they're still afraid is the main takeaway, I guess. But this was not the good guys. So it was the bad guys who stormed the streets, which now that has been happening here in America. But the police haven't gone any way, form, or fashion in the way of that. In fact, they have deputized people to terrorize migrants in America. So never mind. All that fun stuff I just said is apparently also incorrect. Apparently there are some white supremacists attacking brown people. Yeah, no, apparently that's exactly what's happening. And the police are afraid of the white supremacists rather than putting them down. So apparently that is also universal. Police only brutally crack down on protests that are things like socialism, bettering the lives of others, or protecting the rights of others. That's when the police go out of their way to crack people down. But when white supremacists Molotov and burn down and assault migrants in their homes, no big deal. Hey, you want a badge? We'll just give you a badge, a gator, and free reign to do whatever you want.
He says things have changed. Al-Wazan spoke to Reuters at a Stop the Hate rally in Belfast.
People are afraid to go out because there are violence almost now everywhere in Northern Ireland, and they're scared to go out, scared to go to work, scared to go to school, and to go shopping. So people are staying in.
The violence flared first and was most intense in Ballymena, after two 14-year-old boys were arrested and appeared in court accused of a serious sexual assault on a teenage girl. The charges were read via a Romanian interpreter to the boys, whose lawyer told the court that they denied them. The eruption of street violence is particularly dangerous in Northern Ireland due to its legacy of sectarian violence and the lingering role of paramilitary groups. Between 1960...
Do not fucking tell me that the, what is it, the New Revolutionary Army of Ireland, the NRA, I think that's what that stands for. Do not fucking tell me the NRA has been co-opted by Nazis and fascists. Like, the NRA used to be the good guys. They really used to be the good guys. Do not fucking tell me the NRA has become the enemy.
1968 and 1998, more than 3,600 people were killed in a conflict between mainly Catholic Irish nationalists, predominantly Protestant pro-British loyalists, and the British military. Patrick Corrigan is the local director of Amnesty International.
We have a serious problem of endemic racist violence, at times fueled by paramilitary organisations, which is a particularly sinister element in this part of the world, where you have masked men who have recourse to violence to try to tell people where they're allowed to live and where they're not allowed to live.
Segregation along sectarian lines remains common, and the number of recorded race hate crimes is now double that of sectarian offenses, police data shows. Immigration has historically been low in Northern Ireland, where the years of conflict bred an insular society not used to assimilating outsiders. There are other factors at play too, said a Queen's University Belfast professor. The towns involved in the violence all have big economic problems, substandard housing, and rely on industries that need an increasing migrant workforce. Ballymena resident Neil Bremeld said the town's diverse culture was welcomed, but that there were problems with, quote, a select few.
The people around here, they've literally got a boiling point. You know, they've had enough. The people, they've been complaining for months and months leading up to this about the behaviour, but I don't agree with innocent people who are done nothing wrong. They're being put out of their houses. It's not fair. You know, everybody has a right to live and let live.
These synagogues.
Wow. The equivalent of what we just watched would be finding out that Che Guevara decided to help America against Cuba. Like, are you, or what? So the IRA, I'm hoping, I mean, they didn't explicitly say it was the IRA, but paramilitary groups on secular nation or lines in Northern Ireland, I mean, that pretty much points in only one direction. The IRA becoming the bad guys would be extremely, extremely depressing. Okay, so you're saying, but they said that they are the Protestants. Okay, good. So it's the Redcoats continuing to do this. Good. The Loyalists remain the scum as they are and have been. Cool. Wow. So, I mean, fascism is on the rise in Europe again. Interesting how the 1920s and the 2020s are a fucking mirror. What else is happening that's similar to the Gilded Age? Oh yeah, billionaires and the ultra-wealthy living their best lives while people are living in poverty. Huh. I mean, huh. Presidents and world leaders turning a blind eye to civil unrest and economic disparity? Music, art, and entertainment revolving thoroughly and solely around poverty and inequality? Huh. Interesting. While there's still a segment of just pure, unadulterated, unfiltered decadence being proliferated throughout the same media and entertainment industries? You don't say. How is it that we are not only repeating history, but we are repeating history damn near to the letter, literally a century later? Like, how the fuck are we this stupid as a society? And how are our leaders this brazen about it? So, again, this goes back to, why are we not in the streets? Because we got bills to pay? Because we got jobs? Because we have responsibilities with our families and our children and our dogs and our cats and our beautiful baby computers. Okay. I don't disagree. Those are very valid reasons for not throwing your entire life away or risking your safety and well-being. But if we literally do nothing, and again, there is civil disobedience, there is protesting with demands, mind you. General strikes? I mean, we don't have to burn it all down. We don't have to drag these people into the street and beat them to death. We could just literally all collectively not show up to work. Just throwing that out there.
A women's basketball team had a big summer trip planned to train in the United States. But the team says because of the Trump administration's travel restrictions, it's been canceled.
We got responsibilities, but Lourdes bread bags on feet says it doesn't matter because we'll die anyway. Oh, and the evil turtle himself said they'll get over it. It would be nice to do all of that, but we don't have to. For legal reasons, we are not inciting violence. We are, however, calling for a general strike. That is primarily what we are calling for on this channel, because that is not violent, and it is well within our legal rights as citizens to exercise our rights. Although the Second Amendment is also valid, even though that is technically violence.
The team had planned a 10-day training camp starting June 22nd in preparation for the 2025 Women's Afro-Basket Tournament in Ivory Coast next month.
Now, here's the thing. Senegal didn't cancel the trip because of Donald Trump. They're like, we're not going to go to America because of him. No. I'm not actually sure which government is, or which department is in charge of visas. I don't think it's Homeland Security. It might be the Department of the Interior. But it could also be the Secretary of State, that office, that department. Either which way, their visas were outright rejected. So the Senegal women's basketball team was just outright denied. The State Department. Yeah, I think that would be correct. Yes. Their visas were denied. Just arbitrarily, these athletes had their visas denied. And we're going to host the World Cup? I mean, it's going to be the only time the United States wins because no other country is going to have the ability to come here because the United States can just choose to not allow them to come in and compete. Like, why is the World Cup still being held in America? And isn't the Olympics set to be held in America as well? The 2028 Olympics are set to be held in America too, which will be under the Trump administration. So if the Senegal basketball team has already had their visas rejected, does that mean they can't compete in the Olympics next too? Like, hello? How does that even work? How can you host international sports events and then literally deny the international part of it? It's in the name. World Cup. Olympics. We shouldn't be hosting any sports competition, not until we get our shit together. No, you're 100,000,000% correct. Like, this is ridiculous.
Instead, they'll stay in Senegal after the U.S. State Department rejected visas for 5 players, 6 staff members, and a ministerial delegation. The rejection prompted a response from Senegal's Prime Minister, Ousmane Sonko, on social media. Informed of the refusal to issue visas to multiple members of the national women's basketball team of Senegal, I gave instruction to the Ministry of Sports to cancel, purely and simply, the 10-day preparation program initially set to be in the United States of America. Earlier this month, the U.S. announced a ban on citizens from these 12 countries, including 7 from Africa.
Which all have teams that could and would participate in either the Olympics or the World Cup. Are you fucking kidding me? Eritrea. Yeah, exactly. Republic of Congo, Equatorial Guinea, Yemen, Sudan, Somalia, Libya, Iran, of course. What was Eritrea ever done? Here's the thing, like, how many people even knew that was a country until just now? Right? Like, come on. This is insane.
There are also partial travel restrictions on nationals from 7 more countries. Senegal.
Laos? What the fuck has Laos done? Venezuela? Are you seriously denying the very country that makes our coffee to come to America? Because if you want massive civil uprising in the most overworked and financially ruined generation in history, go ahead and take away the coffee. Go ahead. Just go ahead. You know what? I dare you to take away coffee. I dare you, and see what happens. In fact, Donald Trump, you're a fucking pussy. A pussy if you don't ban coffee imports to the United States of America. We should be growing coffee in our own country, right? Let's get the South in America in our country. Let's get Alabama, Texas, Louisiana, Nevada, Arizona. Let's get those states to grow our coffee beans. You fucking poser. You goddamn pussy. America first? Let's put coffee in America first, motherfucker. Quit being a pussy. Let's actually go all in. Go ahead and cancel coffee imports. You fucking coward. I bet you won't fucking do it. You cowardly pussy. I hope he sees this. I hope this makes it across his fucking desk that I, Samuel Ronan, called him a pussy to his face, that he won't ban coffee imports from South America and the Middle East. Ban the coffee imports. I fucking dare you. Bruh, I don't even... Because they're black? I don't know. If Trump was really for America first, he would ban coffee. I want to see him ban coffee. I want to see him ban coffee. Otherwise, he's a poser. He likes making products so much with his name on it. Let him make Red Overlord brand coffee. Yeah, go ahead. Ban coffee unless it's made in America. Like made, grown, ground, manufactured, packaged, and delivered. Fucking coward.
Was not on either list. In his announcement of the ban, President Donald Trump cited ties to terrorism, poor screening and vetting procedures, and a history of people overstaying their visas among the reasons those countries would be denied entry.
We cannot have open migration from
We're not listening to his fucking voice.
Reported the administration was considering a ban on 36 more countries. That list reportedly does include Senegal. The rejection of the visas for the basketball team is surprising because the administration reportedly gave targeted countries a 60-day window to satisfy the State Department's concerns. The original executive order also included an exemption. Any athlete or member of an athletic team, including coaches, persons performing a necessary support role, and immediate relatives traveling for the World Cup, Olympics, or other major sporting event as determined by the Secretary
of State. So they're not even following their own laws that they're coming up with.
It's not clear what constitutes a major sporting event. The Senegal women's team is one of the best in Africa and is currently in first place in the Afro League standings. They've won a record 11 FIBA Afro League titles. The administration declined to comment on the visa refusal on the grounds that individual cases are subject to confidentiality under U.S. law. For Straight Arrow News, I'm Chris Francis.
That is literally the most insane thing. Hey, we're writing in an executive order that specifically states we won't target athletes for our upcoming athletic competitions that we are hosting, and then immediately blocks the top seed African basketball female team. And then denies any oversight or accountability for it. Maybe they can have a coffee plantation off the Verrazano Bridge. Yeah. The Verrazano Bridge making the greatest coffee. that was a whirlwind of insanity.
This is Gaza, where people awake before the sun rises for a chance to eat. Unarmed, unfed, and unprotected, these Palestinians are not just looking for food, they are walking into danger. Israel has intensified its attacks on Palestinians near aid distribution centers, locations that should offer relief but have turned into death traps.
Literal death
Just for
traps.
a handful of food. This is a criminal world, an unjust world. The entire world has abandoned Gaza and the Palestinians. We are killed by the dozen every day just for a loaf of bread. Fear God, you Muslims, if there is any faith left on this earth.
They were told to come here, but many never made
the worst part of it all is that there are people who are being given aid. So it's not like they're just being wantonly slaughtered and none of the aid being distributed. It's just, we're going to murder a few of you every time you come up here to get the aid. And you're just going to have to roll the dice to see if whether or not today or at this point in time, that person will be you that gets murdered for the luxury of giving the rest of your starving, desperate citizens food. That's worse than the Hunger Games. Like, that's literally, I mean, this is the Israeli response to the Hunger Games. This is their version of it.
They have been shot, shelled, or trampled in the crowd.
I was going to bring food to my family, to my siblings and my brother. We got injured. There was a lot of fire. It's very difficult. It's food with the taste of blood.
The United Nations top human rights office has warned the deliberate obstruction and manipulation of food aid is illegal under international law. Hunger.
So, okay, this is the part I'm still struggling to understand. If it's illegal, and Israel is the one doing the illegal, and you all keep fucking saying it's illegal, where's the fucking enforcement? Where is the the United States put a veto on. Oh, they have universal veto. Fuck off. If it's illegal, who the fuck cares what the United States says? Act. Act as individual nations if you can't act as the United Nations. What the fuck is wrong with you cowardly motherfuckers? I don't understand it. I don't understand.
Gaza is no longer a crisis. It's a daily siege. Families are eating leaves, grinding animal feed into flour, or going days with anything to eat.
What began as a humanitarian lifeline has now become a corridor of bloodshed. Several Palestinians were killed before even they could touch a box of food, leaving the families...
That's exactly what I just said. A few of you must pay the blood toll so that the rest can have their food, which means you're still gonna get food, because we still want to be able to show that we're giving food to the world, that we're giving food, but you are going to risk death for our photo op. And we will kill you slowly, dozens at a time, day after day, until you are too afraid to come here. And then we will force you at gunpoint to collect the aid. And then we will execute you anyway. And so we can give whoever is left whatever morsel of food remains, so that we can continue to lie to the world that we are the just nation providing aid to the desperate masses of Palestine, while committing genocide in the name of the West. This is unconscionable. Just unfathomable cruelty and evil malevolence. There are not words in the English language to truly convey. And the fact that I keep watching this video and expecting him to get shot through the helmet at any point in time just goes to show how absolutely dire the circumstances are.
To deal with an uncertain future. Tariq Abazoum, Al Jazeera, Deir al-Balah, Palestine.
Unbelievable. Speaking of Iran and Israel.
Have they stopped Iran's nuclear capabilities? Have they, quote, obliterated them, as President Trump said? No, absolutely not.
They brag so much about being against lawlessness and then don't take action when their leaders behave that way. He probably was towards the end there. It sounded like he was doing a bit of a prayer at the end. And by the way, those helmets are called brain buckets for a reason. A sniper round, which is what would likely be used against someone wearing a helmet, is typically of a high enough caliber that it pierces, well, most materials. And helmets, they need to be sturdy so that you can, wear them and actually be protected from ricochet fire or shrapnel. Helmets are actually not designed to take 5.56 ammunition, 7.62 ammunition, or anything higher than that directly. And if they are rated for that, which would be level 3A or level 4, they can only take like 1. Maybe. And then you're dealing with so much momentum and force from the impact that it'll snap your neck or shatter your brain anyway. So, yeah. The idiots who wear them are blocking air to the brain, not that they needed the helmet to do so. No, I mean, it's still safe to wear a helmet. It's just the purpose isn't to deflect bullets. Why would you call the press idiots? Unless I'm very much so misunderstanding something here.
What was the 12-day war about? That's what Trump's calling the intense strikes between Israel and Iran, which briefly also involved the US and Qatar. The whole thing left so many of us confused, not least our viewers who've sent in a bunch of questions. I'm Sandra Gatman, the host of an explainer show called Start Here. And to help me explain all of this, I'm enlisting Mark Fitzpatrick, an associate fellow at the International Institute for Strategic Studies.
And here's the thing too, right? So now we're talking about the 12-day war between Israel and Iran, and as far as I know, it hasn't stopped, so I'm not really getting why they're calling it the 12-day war, but whatever. They're talking about it extremely laid back and jokingly. Let's talk about this 12-day war, because our viewers don't even know what's going on. It's just been a rigmarole. Meanwhile, Israeli citizens are dying. Israeli structures, which were also housing military targets, of course, are also laying in ruins, and Iranians are dead or dying with some of their structures laying in ruins. Like this, and the United States got their hands dirty with it too. So, like, this isn't a laughing, joking matter. Yes, Trump is a buffoon. Yes, Trump is a coward and an idiot and has no business being in charge of literally anything, and our Congress is too cowardly to act. But that doesn't mean we can make light of war and conflict. What the flying fuck? Okay. Thank you for clearing that up, pop culture. Text loses context a lot, unironically.
Former U.S. diplomat and an expert on U.S. foreign policy and nuclear issues. Mark, thank you for speaking to me
How can you even be an expert on U.S. foreign policy and issues? Because our country has basically been a rogue state for an incredibly long amount of time. So how are you an expert on that? It's like, yep, we committed war. We committed atrocities. Yep, we coup d'etat. Yep, we violated that treaty. Yep, we violated that international law. Like, is that the expertise? Or like, oh yes, I can see, yes, I am in the mind of Ronald Reagan as he was subjugating black people through terrorism and the drug war. Yes, I can see how this is going to manifest. Like, what?
Yeah, happy to be here. Thanks for asking me.
Let's start with the trigger, which was Israel saying
Israel attacked
to stop it getting a nuclear weapon. We can talk about whether that was the real or only motive a bit later, but squarely on the nuclear issue, has Israel taken out Iran's nuclear capabilities? What do we know?
Well, if the question is, have they stopped Iran's nuclear capabilities? Have they, quote, obliterated them, as President Trump said? No, absolutely not. Even before the U.S. Defense Intelligence Agency put out a report saying it hadn't happened. Individual analysts were looking at overhead imagery, and they could tell, no, the bombs had not penetrated deep into the enrichment facilities. And now we know that centrifuges remained intact. And we also knew from the beginning that Iran was able to take away the stockpile of nearly weapons-grade enriched uranium, over 400 kilograms of it. Don't know where that is now, but that certainly will give Iran a huge start if it decides to produce nuclear weapons.
I want to take this opportunity to clear some things up, because going into this, the IAEA, the International Atomic Energy Agency, put out this report that everyone seemed to take bits of and run away with and draw their own conclusions as to whether Iran was building a nuclear weapon, how close it was, whether it wanted to or not. How do we square the fact that Iran has these capabilities, has this highly enriched uranium, which goes beyond the level needed for civilian use, right? And at the same time, people are saying there is no active, structured program that is in place, and there is no political green light to go ahead with building the weapon.
Right, which was why I was very confused the way you phrased that statement. Sometimes my brain just goes skirt, especially when I'm already fired up over the thing that is being discussed. I've even had made Anna clarify a few things before.
How do we hold those two thoughts in our heads at the same time?
You know, the best way to look at this is that Iran...
I don't know what the fuck this is trying to be, but it is incredibly boring and not informative at all.
US President Donald Trump is warning the war between Israel and Iran may reignite, and it may happen soon. He was speaking at The Hague at the end of the NATO... I'm not asking you to find a clip on whether or not this actually happened, but I saw something circulating around the internet again, obviously the internet, that one of these people at NATO called Trump daddy. And if that is true, what the actual fuck? Also, Trump is at The Hague. He literally traveled to The Hague. The Hague. Capital T, Hague. Capital T, The Hague, right? Just to be clear on what I meant there. He is an actual war criminal and violator of human rights. He is ordering ICE to terrorize migrant communities and has deported, trafficked, American citizens to El Salvador and other countries, which is a war crime, a crime against humanity. He is aiding and abetting Israel, which the UN agrees is committing war crimes and crimes against humanity. He traveled to The Hague himself. He willingly went to The Hague. Why is he not being arrested on the spot and immediately brought before a tribunal? He's an idiot for showing up there. Are you kidding? Have we gotten to the woman who got a crappy response by him about her personal issues? I don't know yet. I don't know if Anna found that. He is anti-NATO and is at the summit. You can't make this up. Right. No, he's anti-NATO at the summit. He's at The Hague. He's a war criminal, a criminal against humanity. Like, it's just de facto, his own felonies notwithstanding. Why did they not arrest him? Why? And you found the daddy clip. Jesus Christ. He can't call Minnesota about the people who got shot dead, but he can go to this summit after dumping on it. Yeah, like I'm finding it extremely difficult to understand why he is not in prison and being held by an international court in a tribunal. I don't. He's at The Hague. Summit where some members have agreed to ramp up their defence spending to 5% of GDP by 2035. It's in response to a demand made by Trump.
10 years? Fuck, Jesus.
The alliance says it's united in the face of profound security threats and challenges. Well, the US strikes on Iran dominated the talks. Trump says that while he's confident negotiations with Iran are the next logical step, there's a chance the ceasefire may not hold.
They fought very, very hard and very viciously, very violently, and they were both satisfied to go home and get out. And can it start again? I guess someday it can. It could maybe start soon. I think a big telltale sign was when, as you know, Iran somewhat, by not much, violated the ceasefire and is.
Iran? The same Iran that got attacked by Israel? The same Iran that got attacked by Israel the day before negotiations were supposed to be held between the United States, Israel, and Iran? The same Iran that said we will stop everything, and to include nuclear enrichment if Israel gives up all of its nuclear weapons? That Iran? They violated the ceasefire? What? Kim Jong violated the agreement, but he's not saying anything about him. Exactly. Why should I, who lives in Milwaukee, care about a New York election? I don't think the mayor will stop the weapon shipments, and I'm facing oppression from Democratic leadership in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. There are feds knocking on people's doors. Well, you don't have to care about the New York City mayor election, because it really doesn't impact you at all in Wisconsin. And Democrats allowing ICE to knock on people's doors should concern you even greater than the mayoral election. The one thing where the mayoral election may impact you is that the East Coast is a port of entry, and there is a lot of trade that occurs within New York ports. So Zoran, although I don't recall anything about him saying that he would stop weapon shipments or anything along those lines in New York City, could theoretically do so. And Anna has a valid point. Mamdani's campaign could be a blueprint for other candidates and other campaigns throughout the country. Who went to D.C. and abandoned his own state. Right, like the fleeing. I mean, didn't Netanyahu flee his own city too? He has an impact on Wall Street, but I wonder how much of an impact he truly has on Wall Street, because Wall Street is an exchange, an international exchange at that. Well, it is traded internationally. It's not an international exchange. But yeah, I mean, what can he do? Shut it down? Because that would be goated if he did.
Israel had the planes going out that morning, and there were a lot of them, 52 of them. And I said, you got to get them back. And they brought them back. They didn't do anything. They brought them back. It was.
Wait, so the Secretary of Defense and Secretary of State are both there as well, looking like schmucks while they just listen to him talk out of his ass?
Very good. I thought it was amazing, actually. They have fought a hell of a war. They fought very hard.
As soon as possible.
We're going to talk to them. Me, I don't know
who's at the NATO summit for us. Hashem, I mean, Donald Trump using the NATO summit to draw a line under the Iran-Israel conflict with the prospect of talks, although heavily caveated, saying that he believed the fighting could resume again.
Yeah, because now he doesn't want to claim that he fixed it and then it blew up in his face, literally, again. So he's trying to play both sides. But the problem is he's irrelevant. He has single-handedly, in 6 months, made the United States irrelevant in global affairs. It's story time about stuff that has nothing to do with the topic, like Billy Madison saying the puppy who lost its way is a story tie into the Industrial Revolution.
Indeed. He stressed that the American...
This kills me. They are at The Hague. Nobody likes him. Nobody there likes him. People have even called him a threat on numerous occasions. A threat. him specifically, not the United States of America, but Donald Trump specifically, they have called him a threat. He is at The Hague. 1 + 1 should equal 2. Should equal 2. This isn't hard. Trump at Hague. Hague, place where Nazis convicted. Nazi at Hague, place where Nazis were convicted. Nazi at place where Nazis were convicted. Or was it executed? The Nuremberg trials, that's where they were convicted. So it must have been The Hague. I'm getting them confused. The Hague is where they were executed then. Oh, so what happened at The Hague? Hold on a second. Now I'm getting my history confused. Oh, is that where the international... Okay, so... Okay, because of the... So, no. That is where the trials happened. Okay. Okay. So, the executions happened at Nuremberg. But the trials where the permanent home of the United Nations International Court of Justice and the Court of Arbitration. Okay, so the International Military Tribunal at Nuremberg as the primary location, while trials were also held in other locations, the most well-known trials of major Nazi leaders took place at the International Military Tribunal in Nuremberg, Germany. The Hague as a backdrop for Nazi activity and a site for subsequent trials. The Netherlands, including The Hague, was occupied by Nazi Germany during the war. Many Dutch people were persecuted, including Jews who were deported to concentration camps. After the war, The Hague became a place where investigations and subsequent trials related to Nazi collaboration took place. So that's why it's confusing. The trials happened in both places, and the execution happened at both places, because they were happening in lots of places. Which is to say, The Hague, where the Nazis were sentenced and tried for war crimes. There is a Nazi at The Hague, the place where the Nazis were tried and sentenced for their crimes. Nazi present at the place where the Nazi... do I have to repeat myself again? What's the... shit. I don't remember his name. Kabi Lame. I don't know how to pronounce his last name, to be perfectly honest. But yeah, where's Kabi Lame? Is that how you pronounce his name? Because I feel like I'm saying that wrong. But the guy who does this. We need him to do the Trump was at The Hague. He's not very self-aware. No, he's not. And actually, ever since whatever his face was said, are we going to execute people at Central Park? Huh. That would be a very interesting thought, considering Central Park was created due to the destruction and murder of wealthy, affluent Black Americans who had started to recover from a post-slavery world in the United States of America, that wherever Central Park exists is literally the entire segment of the city where Black Americans, freed slaves, gathered together and began to thrive. Also, honorable mention, Tulsa City, Oklahoma, was also considered a Black Wall Street. So I think both areas were considered Black Wall Street. But either which way, Central Park might need some 1798 French decor.
Strikes in Iran managed to completely destroy Iran's nuclear capabilities. And that even when the Iranians and the Americans meet next week to talk about the potential for resuming diplomatic talks about Iran's program, it doesn't matter as far as he is concerned, because he believes that it will take Iran many, many years to be able to rebuild its nuclear capacity. And saying that according to intelligence reports that he trusts, along with the intelligence report by the Israelis, he doesn't believe that the Iranians managed to take some of the enriched uranium to safe havens, and that the entire program was completely destroyed. He does understand this is a fragile ceasefire. He takes credit for it. He said, had it not been for his personal intervention, it would have been extremely impossible to convince the Israelis to stop targeting Iran in different parts of the country. And this explains the same concern that has been voiced by many European countries and NATO members, which is, okay, since there is a fragile ceasefire, what are the guarantees that both the Iranians and the Israelis will respect its terms? And this boils down to what happens next. And this is where we don't have a sense of clarity. You have to have talks.
Right. Because there is no plan, because he doesn't have a plan. He's never had a plan. He doesn't even believe his own intelligence services that do not tell him what he wants to hear. This is beyond the emperor with no clothes. This is Caligula. This is Caligula levels of insanity in a world leader. Like Caligula, the guy who ordered the Roman military to fight Poseidon, the god of the sea, by stabbing the water at a beach.
You have to see whether the International Atomic Energy Agency is going to be able to convince the Iranians to start new talks about what should happen next, and whether there's going to be an agreement. In the absence of a
Why the fuck do they spend so much fucking time standing on the stage for photo ops?
Either between the Iranians and the International Atomic Agency, or between
Nero could at least play an instrument.
The Iranians and the Americans, it is going to be extremely difficult to maintain peace and stability in the Middle East.
So Donald Trump affirming the effectiveness of what he sees was the result of the US strikes on Iranian nuclear facilities based upon what he believes his own intelligence and intelligence given to him by the Israelis. I mean, but is there unanimity there?
All right. This is going to be extremely... I shouldn't say what I'm about to say, but it's just extremely visible. The guy second from on the right, on the very, very right, second from the end, is extremely small. He just looks extremely out of place there. Extremely out of place. And then he's standing next to an extremely tall guy too, which just makes it even more noticeable. And he's not even the shortest person there. There's another guy, third from the left on the front. In the front row, third from the left. He's also pretty damn short. But Trump is supposedly 6'3", 215, So that must mean a lot of these people are also in their 6'4" era, which I don't believe for a second. Oh, and the white shoes? Well, see, that's a fashion faux pas. Men will never notice. Holy shit, though. How did I not notice that? That's pretty glaring. That's impressive. But that just goes to show I'm a guy.
Do you think, amongst other NATO members, that the Iran-Israel ceasefire will hold, and of the veracity of this intelligence?
And is literally blue suit the fucking uniform of NATO? Every single one of them were wearing a blue suit. What's up with that?
They totally decided to remain tight-lipped about that particular issue because they saw Trump furious over the reports by major American outlets who were quoting the leaked DIA report, which said that it was far from being obliterated, and Trump was furious. Today, also during the press conference, said this is fake news.
That
this
is far more
coming
believable.
from media which hates me. This is coming from my enemies. This is coming from people with a political agenda, and this explains why time and again he was repeating the same assertions.
I'm actually shocked any of these people are trying to talk to him.
They've gone through the documents, they've seen the satellite imagery, and that everything is buried under massive mountains of concrete
or colonels
in what used
or something.
to be tunnels
I couldn't see
underground
his rank.
in Fordo. So as far as he's
Navy,
concerned,
so he's a captain at the minimum.
The program has been completely destroyed, and this explains why he also cited an intelligence assessment by the Israelis, which said that the Israeli government is now confident the airstrikes by the Americans have managed to cause...
So what we just heard is that the United States of America's president doesn't believe the U.S. intelligence that he is receiving from the United States of America's intelligence bureaus and agencies, but is choosing to instead believe Israel's intelligence over his own. And Israel is already spewing lies and manipulation and misinformation to manipulate this president of the United States, who is choosing to believe Israel, who is manipulating him and has publicly stated they intend to manipulate him. Do I really need to continue this thought here? Like, what? That woman with the Handmaid's Tale hat, really weird. And also about eye level with him. Okay. So let's let our hair down. Is this that one about the thing? All right, so let's take a quick pause here. I'm running out of water and I'm getting parched here. So we'll take a quick 5-minute break and then we will watch the funny, I guess. Is it gonna work for me? Of course it won't work for me. Are you going to work? How about now? Hey, it finally worked. All right.
Oh, we're back. Anywho, we're back. So, let's see him get trolled, I guess. Let's find out. Let's see what happens.
BBC News Ukrainian.
Where are you from?
I'm from Ukraine.
Oh,
so my
wow.
question to you is whether or not the US is ready to sell anti-air missile systems Patriot to Ukraine. We know that Russia has been pounding Ukraine really heavily right now.
Are you living yourself now in Ukraine?
My husband is there.
Wow.
And
I can see you're very, it's amazing.
And me with the kids, I'm in Warsaw actually, because he wanted me to be.
Is your husband a soldier? No?
He is.
He's there now?
Yeah.
Wow. That's rough stuff, right? That's tough. And you're living here?
In Warsaw.
And you're a reporter?
I am.
Good. So let me just tell you, they do want to have the missiles, okay, as they call them, the Patriots. And we're going to see if we can make some available, They're very hard to get. We need them too. We were supplying them to Israel, and they're very effective, 100% effective. Hard to believe how effective. And they do want that more than any other thing, as you probably know. That's a very good question, and I wish you a lot of luck. I mean, I can see it's very upsetting to you. So.
What the fuck did we just watch? Where was this, was this the video you were talking about? Have we gotten to the woman who got a crappy response by him about her personal issues? Jesus fucking Christ. Wow. The President of the United States. No, that's an actual video. No. Oh, God.
They're not going to be fighting each other. They've had it. They've had a big fight, like two kids in a schoolyard. They fight like hell. You can't stop them. Let them fight for about 2-3 minutes. Then it's easier to stop them.
And then Daddy has to sometimes use strong language.
You have to use strong language. Every once in a while, you have to use a certain word.
That's not as cringy as I thought that was going to be.
Do we have any questions?
To be clear, I thought it was going to be Daddy. I didn't realize it was going to be, Papa. He could have just said Papa. I think from the country he's from, it's actually Papa. But I think he was trying to use English vernacular. Still weird. Not going to say it wasn't weird. But I was expecting, Daddy. That's what I thought we were going to see, but thank fuck. Now, why did this just remove our playlist? WTF OMFG something QTFL. Oh, it's not foreign, but Red Vice tried to make a joke and it failed miserably. Well, that's not shocking because he's not funny and there's nothing about him that's funny. Oh, is this propaganda from the CNN?
Nowhere to be seen. The most powerful person in Iran, the supreme leader, Ayatollah Khamenei, the ruler of Iran for the last 36 years. And tonight, there are major questions about his well-being and his whereabouts. Since Trump announced the ceasefire, we have not heard a single word from him. We've heard from Iran's president. We've heard from the foreign minister. We've heard from the head of the IRGC, as I just showed you. But we have not heard from the supreme leader. In fact, as of right now, as I'm talking, it has been more than 48 hours since his last post on social media, which was this image of an American flag going up in flames. And while our Fred Pleiken has seen people on the streets of Tehran, among the regime faithful, holding up pictures of the Ayatollah, this appears to be the last time that we've seen him on camera. That was back on June 18th, exactly one.
Why the fuck is CNN bending over backwards to push this kind of idiotic and asinine propaganda? Now that's kind of funny. MAGA's nightmare wins, New York Dem socialist shocks. We could probably maybe watch some of that tomorrow, depending on how long of a video that is. But yeah, what the hell happened to our playlist? Great, now I gotta find it. I think it was this one. No, of course not. All right, let's click on something.
This went on all day.
Oh? Did I just inadvertently click on foreign affairs? At least 16 people have been killed during nationwide rallies against police brutality and government corruption, according to the human rights group Amnesty Kenya. Another 400 people were injured Wednesday, a statement from the Kenya National Commission on Human Rights said, including protesters, police, and journalists. The casualties included people hit by live fire, so not even rubber bullets, but live fire, meaning bullets, real bullets, and others who were wounded by rubber bullets or were beaten and were primarily in the Kenyan capital, Nairobi. So Kenya is having some problems right now.
Protesters who came here to the Kenyan capital say they want to pay tribute to the more than 60 people who were killed during anti-government protests last year.
So they killed
are still
more?
Missing. They blame the police. Selivina Mwihaki came early morning. She says she wants her voice heard.
Every drop that is dropping like this, the whole nation, the whole continent, we are rising because we have said as the Republic of Kenya, we are done shedding blood because of power.
These protesters said,
while gunshots, real bullets were going off behind her, she didn't even flinch. She didn't even react to it. She was about that.
He wants better from the leaders.
The government is taking us as a joke. They don't want to listen to us. They want to go to their family alone. They have to listen to us as the citizens. We are the people, and the sovereignty because of the power of the people.
Beyond Nairobi, there was similar demonstrations held in other parts of the country. Everyone saying the same thing. They want an end to police brutality. They want justice.
There's a lot of anger on.
Which is, did you just see that cop? Yeah, I said run away. After firing tear gas and rubber bullets at protesters, which is a war crime. It's a war crime, mind you. Specifically a war crime because it is a weapon of war that was specifically banned by the United Nations to be used against civilians. So it is an actual war crime to use tear gas against civilians. Just to be very clear. That isn't me just embellishing.
Using stones as the police try to disperse them. But a lot of people that we've talked to say that they are very angry.
So that was semi-automatic rifle fire.
Using too much force, and they say they will not be intimidated because of all this.
They're involved in extrajudicial killings. They're kidnapping people and abducting people, and some people have turned up dead.
Does that sound like a country we know? Whose law enforcement does things like this? Maybe even from a very large populated city who just had a mayoral primary? Very familiar. Very familiar.
Protests have been heightened even more by the killing of a blogger and teacher who was tortured in a police station. He was arrested.
Tortured in a police station, you say? A teacher? Interesting. Interesting how that is a brutal police state who is torturing teachers at a police station and extrajudicially killing civilians. Interesting. Oh, but it's Kenya. I see. Interesting.
Arrested after he accused the Deputy Inspector General of Police of corruption. He has since stepped aside from his role, and other police officers who were at the station at the time have been charged with murder. But many who are, he has since stepped
I'll
aside
try and
from
pause it
his
correctly. You see that weapon that's dangling off of his shoulder right there? That is an M16 rifle. Now, it could be any caliber, because rifles can be, I forget the word now, set to any caliber, right? Like, in the process of manufacturing, you can't just arbitrarily change it like with a switch. Why can't I think of the word? Apologies. But that is an actual weapon of war. The M16. We call it the AR-15. Well, we also call it the M16 when it's issued to a military member, but the AR-15 is the same weapons frame as the M16, which would later become the get evolved into the M4. So it's the same fucking thing, just the AR-15 is commercially available and doesn't have full auto or burst capability.
And other police officers who were at the station at the time have been charged with murder. But many Kenyans want more done.
So we are here to demand justice. Justice in terms of compensation, justice in terms of arrest of those officers who are involved, justice in terms of police reforms, because too many Kenyans are losing their lives in the hands of the police.
Most of the people we talk to say they are frustrated and disillusioned.
In Kenya?
And those
Let's
in power
go!
are not listening to them. Catherine Soy, Al Jazeera, Nairobi.
Don't miss out. Get the full
Wow. That's awesome. That is friggin' awesome. Oh, look. Kenya authorities ban live broadcasting on site of protest. Gee, does that sound fucking familiar? So, none of that. I know none of this was on our playlist. Probably because we weren't even aware. This is the first I'm hearing about it. I mean, there is a shitload of stuff going on. Ooh. Ah, that was a month ago, but you know what? Ooh, 50 minutes. Maybe not. Iran captures and executes 3 Israeli Mossad spies. That's 18 hours ago. And it seems as though the Ayatollah is talking. So, I mean, I'm going to just call this also probably propaganda, but on the side of Iran with their propaganda. Because again, as soon as all this shit started popping off, America managed to find 11 Iranian nationals and Captain America himself from Iran with his military ID and a handwritten note with lipstick at the bottom with love, the Ayatollah, in his fucking pocket. So I don't know how much of this is real. I don't know how much of this is in Alabama, of all places, right? Because, you know, an Iranian is definitely going to mix well in fucking-bama. Let's just, okay. Anyway, I'm not saying that this isn't real. I'm not saying that this is propaganda. I'm also not saying that it isn't. Yeah, then that is definitely the Ayatollah. The Islamic Republic alleged 3 men were spying for Israel's agency, which, I mean, probably were. Well, they were burned at the very least. I mean, burned as spies. I don't know, I'm just, smuggling arms and weapons? The executions were carried out by hanging. It's one way to hang assassins. Also announced the capture of a Mossad-backed terror cell inside Iran. Yeah, so, I mean, again, is it not? I really wish we were hearing some actual, coverage. Iran is second only to China in execution numbers? Really? the United States isn't leading the pack on executing people? I mean, come on, Texas. I thought you were the king of executions. Anyway, I guess. Okay, maybe it was real because that is being reported on multiple news networks in the region. So that's probably fairly reliable. Jesus. It's brutal. Oh, wow. Speaking of extreme propaganda inside the most sinful country, real life in Iran versus media. What? Oh, no. So this is pure propaganda. Pure, unmitigated.
Iran is one of the most misunderstood countries on Earth. Ask 10 people what they think of it, and you'll hear 10 versions of fear, silence, and suspicion. For decades, it's been framed as dangerous, closed off, and extreme.
Oh, okay, so this is not...
Has successfully launched satellites and developed its own space program. Its scientists and...
Okay, then we don't need to watch this, because I just wanted to watch this to be like, see, this is crazy shit. Iran is a regular country like every other country in the world. They got stores, they got internet, they got cell phones, they got cars. They got everything we got. They're just Muslim. And
engineers
honestly,
contribute to aerospace design,
they're not even that brown.
Nanotechnology.
I mean, they have slightly different facial features, but like Christ, people. Like, if she was not wearing a hijab, unless that's called something else because it's not a full face, whatever the case may be, she's not covering her face, and that's how they're always depicted in from Iran. That the women are like covered like this. I'm just saying, like, if she was wearing a striped pinup blouse and blue jeans and cowboy boots and a little old Sally hat and was walking around downtown Houston, nobody would think twice. Other than maybe she has a slightly more noticeable nose. That's about it. Like, are you fucking serious? Why are we being so fucking racist against these people? They don't look that much different. I mean, my God, do I look fucking German? No, I look a little something. I have never been racially profiled. Probably because I'm porcelain white. These are all white people too, but because they're Muslim? I mean, what the fuck? Xenophobia and racism makes zero sense to me. It does not compute. I see a person with darker skin color, lighter skin color, different religious beliefs, and it's like, oh, neat, I'd love to learn more about your country. That is literally the first thought. I have now immediately become an anthropologist, which might still be rude to a degree. It's like, as a white person with no experience with your culture and community, would you just share with me, for as long as it doesn't bother you, everything about you? Because I find it fascinating from an academic and intellectual level. I get that could be slightly off-putting, but the first thing I think about is like, oh wow, you're Muslim from Iran? That's awesome. What's it like over there? Am I getting my places confused? Is that where the birthplace of Gilgamesh was? Because I love the Gilgamesh and Enkidu, and I think the region is fantastic. The 1001 Arabian Nights, you guys have some of the greatest mythology in the world. Love it. Like, fill me in. Oh, you love food? I love food. I love to eat. Oh, you want to share some cuisine? Let's go. I'm not very familiar with Arabic and like the common greetings, but I know there's Assalamu alaikum and Inshallah. I know those are two. So which one am I supposed to use? Like, teach me, this cultural nerd that just wants to experience what this world has to offer. Like, that is literally the first thing I personally think of when I see somebody that is different from me and very clearly not from this country. That's the first thing I want to do is bombard them with questions about their country. Oh, where are you from? So what makes you think I'm not from around here? Well, until you spoke, your outfit. But, you know, shame on me for judging, right? Do not assume. I don't understand how people look at a black person wearing whatever they're wearing, right? The colorful outfits with the headgear and all that, and be like, fuck that black person. I don't get how people can just look at a regular American black man or woman and just be like, N-word. Dude is literally just walking down the street, minding his own fucking business. Why are you being racist? What triggers you to look at that man minding his own fucking business and being like, N-word, hard R? What's wrong with you? Like, what is not functioning in your brain? Like, what wires got crossed that your first thought is when you see black person is N-word? I grew up in Lancaster, Ohio, the birthplace of William Tecumseh Sherman. Also the former seat of the Ku Klux Klan of Ohio. Least diverse city in America per capita. And the first thing I think of when I see a black person walking down the street minding their own business is like, wonder what they're up to. And then I'm back to daydreaming about whatever other nonsense I was thinking about at the time. And I grew up in perhaps one of the most racist and culturally isolated places in the country. I was stationed in one of the most racist, culturally isolated cities in the country, Little Rock. I lived in Warren County, Ohio, and you want racist, culturally isolated community in Ohio? Warren fucking County. Let me tell you. I have only ever predominantly lived in the least diverse places in the world that you could possibly imagine. And my first thought when I see any sort of diversity is, I'd love to learn more about your culture if they're foreign. Or if they're black or Latina and they're walking around. Well, okay, I shouldn't have said Latina because there's a slightly different thought. But, wonder what they're up to. Or if I even notice. I don't understand how people default to racism. I really don't. The only time I am filled with pure, unmitigated rage, hate, loathing, and the desire to commit bad things against the individual is when I see a fucking cop. That's it. If I see a cop car, sheriff, statey, ICE driving by, although thank God I haven't actually seen an ICE vehicle because on site, but every time I see cops in uniform walking around, it just fills me with rage. Rage. Not anger, not discomfort, not apprehension. Rage. Rage. That is the feeling I feel when I see police. And I assume that's the feeling racists feel when they see black people. But my rage against officers is because they, throughout my life, have violated my rights, have tried to intimidate me, have threatened me, have been a fucking problem. And even if that weren't the case, it was just affecting me. They also murder with impunity communities of color and terrorize them with absolute impunity and go out of their way to terrorize other communities that are vulnerable and marginalized. That's why I am filled with rage. Black people have done nothing but been targeted by everyone and everything in this country since before this country was a country. So how you can look at them, how you can look at black people with the same hatred and rage and disdain that you should feel for Zionists and police and Nazis is beyond to me. It is beyond me. How can you hate someone like a Nazi that isn't a Nazi? That isn't a fascist. That isn't part of the problem. I cannot fathom that emotion that I feel towards Nazis, Zionists, and police that emotion that I feel towards the enemy, the oppressor, the tyrant, I don't understand how that emotion can be directed against someone for the sole reason that their skin color, gender, sexual orientation, or religion is different than mine. Oh yeah, I guess one of them did almost kill me. You're right. I keep forgetting that. Go figure. I don't understand, and I don't want to. I really don't want to, but if we're going to heal as a country, we're going to have to address this. Like, there's a reason why racists are the way that they are, and it's got to be something ingrained. They have to be wired because, again, it's on site. When I see a cop, when I see a Nazi, when I see Zionists, it's just on site, fuck you, I am ready to fight. So, and there's no unwiring that, largely because you should never not want to fight a Nazi, and you never should not want to fight an Israeli. I'm sorry. Well, no, that's not entirely untrue. You should never want to not fight a Nazi and never not want to fight a Zionist. You should never not want to do those things. Law enforcement should just not be involved in the public whatsoever. Right? They should just stay in their lane and not interact with the public at all. And maybe we wouldn't have so many songs like "Fuck the Police," right? So unwiring the police thing, that might be something that may have to happen in the future. But right now, no, they are committing crimes against humanity. They are violating constitutional rights of citizens, denying them due process, and extrajudicially murdering people in the street. So fuck cops. Fuck them all. Defund every law enforcement agency. Send ICE straight to the fucking Hague. Or our version of the Nuremberg trials, which is more than likely going to be Central Park, I think. At this point, it's probably going to be Central Park for historic reasons. But that being said, that on-site behavior against foreigners and people that look different than you, I don't get it. Does not compute. All right, let's try again with this playlist. Is it gonna apply? It isn't. So maybe I have to apply something else, and then I can apply. There it is. Okay, so that's weird. I have to just redo the playlist. That's fine. It's 9 o'clock. All right, so we still got some time here. Okay, let's see what this is all about.
Your floor deserves more than just paint. With one day,
it's about floors? What? I thought we were watching about Iran.
Nationwide rallies to celebrate what they see as victory over Israel.
Hey, look, children at a protest and a rally that aren't being attacked by police. Imagine that.
Iran has now reopened its airspace.
So Iran is actually even more peaceful and democratic than we are, because if our citizens were celebrating a ceasefire, we'd be attacked.
Earlier, Israeli forces began hitting Tehran less than an hour after being warned not to by the American president. Benjamin Netanyahu said the attack was in response to Iran violating the deal, a claim that Tehran denied. After a conversation...
So wait a second. Iran was accused of violating the ceasefire by Israel, who was the one that actually violated the ceasefire.
Trump,
outstanding.
Netanyahu's office declared that Israeli jets have retreated from Iranian skies. Early on Tuesday, Iran launched missiles at Israel before the deadline for the ceasefire approached. The Israeli military says its air defenses intercepted most of them.
Not all.
Ali, just give us a sense.
Almost only counts in horseshoes and hand grenades there, bub.
If you would, we've seen some pictures of hundreds, thousands of people celebrating. What's the mood there in Iran and the sense of what's happened?
Well, in several cities around the country, there have been several similar rallies, especially here in Tehran at Inqilab Square, or the Revolution Square, where people went to the square to celebrate the end of this war They've been chanting slogans as we've been hearing. And this just reflects the vibes here in the country after the end of these 12 days of daily bombardment. Now, the president of Iran, Masoud Pezeshkian, just released a message to the people. I would like to read parts of it. He says that today, after your courageous resistance, all great and history-making nation,
they're not
witness a
mincing
ceasefire
words,
and the end of the 12-day war that was imposed on the Iranian people by the adventurism and warmongering of the Zionist regime. During this time, the world observed the might of great Iran, supported by its people, while the initiator of this imposed war was the terrorist enemy. Its end was shaped by the will and power of the great Iranian nation. President Masoud Pezeshkian had several phone calls today, including one with the Emir of Qatar and another with the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, Mohammed bin Salman, where he stressed that Iran is ready to reach to an agreement under the international regulations. And this, of course, gives an indication that Iran is ready to get back to the nuclear table, to the nuclear negotiations.
And Ali, what's the feeling there about the likelihood of this ceasefire holding?
Now that's up to Israel, apparently.
Well, following today's attack by Israel in the northern town in the Mazandaran province, there were some concerns whether this is going to shake the fragile ceasefire. But till the moment, it doesn't seem that there's going to be any retaliation in this regard. Now, we don't know what might happen in the night, but for now, this seems to be the situation. Iranians are back in coffee shops, back in the streets, back we can see more people in Tehran, more cars in Tehran, and also other cities. This gives an indication that life is getting back to normal gradually. Airport is going to open or has opened, and probably from tomorrow on, we'll start hearing more of political stances, more of signaling and diplomacy, especially with the very active diplomatic stances from President Trump, the positive messages he's sending to Iran, at least from this day in the morning.
See, and that's the thing. We can't even trust that our own fearless leader will stick to his own story long enough to actually be taken seriously with other countries. Like, this is a joke. This is a failure of U.S. diplomacy, let alone leadership, let alone, never mind, hegemony. Like, U.S. hegemony is out the window. There is no way on this earth that the United States remains its unilateral influence in world politics or economics, because we can't even be trusted. We can't. And it's not even just in terms of war or in trade. We can't even be trusted to hold a fucking sports competition on account of the fact we literally just denied visas from a foreign sports team. Unbelievable. How long ago was that? I mean, see, that's kind of the problem. It's been off and on, off and on, off and on. It's kind of hard to follow which one of these videos is on the off and which one's on the on, and which one's current. Let's see what these protesters have to say.
Do you have a car? Do you have a clean drive?
US President Donald Trump arrived in The Hague. Protesters gathered at a spot they've renamed Gaza Beach. Despite roadblocks and heavy security, dozens managed to attend. Symbolizing the horrors of the genocide, they collectively dropped down in the sand.
This thing has
during
been
2
topsy-turvy
minutes of
for the past
to
couple days.
commemorate all those killed by Israel.
We cannot have a meeting about the NATO and not address the elephant in the room, which is the genocide that takes place in Gaza for such a long time.
She says a summit about defense spending to maintain peace does not make sense when there's no peace for Palestinians.
A protest taking place just a few kilometers away from where U.S. President Donald Trump is meeting NATO leaders. These protesters
kills me is that they are literally at The Hague.
violations of international law and who are ignoring the genocide in Gaza.
Which is exactly what's happening.
From NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte, thanking President Trump for his attack on Iran's nuclear sites, enraged many here.
And you... Oh my God! Why? They are protesting at the honest to fucking God Hague, and they are applauding the attack on Iran. Do you not realize that the genocide against Palestine is literally Muslim baiting? It's literally Islamophobia. And Iran having nuclear weapons is Islamophobia. And where do you think they're going to go next once Gaza is wiped off the map? You think they're going to stop? No, because they're already attacking Syria. They're already attacking Lebanon. I think they attacked Egypt. And Yemen, I believe, is another country that Israel has already attacked. And now they're attacking Iran. Bruh. It doesn't stop at Palestine. The next step is Iran. You're going to be having to hold Lebanon. That's another one. You're going to have to be holding another rally at the fucking Hague for Iran, for Yemen, for Libya, Lebanon, Syria, Yemen. You're going to have to be holding rallies for all of these countries because it isn't going to stop. Not until Israel takes over, the whole world? Because I don't know when Israel stops. They're not going to stop when they have their little picture frame of whatever they think they deserve from the Bible. They're going to keep going. Because that's all they can do to justify the atrocities that they're committing here and now. And this motherfucker said, good job on attacking Iran. Fuck you.
The Secretary General of NATO today...
Former Dutch minister, shocking.
Trump for the courageous step which he had taken to neglect international law. It was aggression. It was a war act, an act of war. So, in my view, NATO gradually is disregarding its own values.
While NATO's commitment is that an attack on one is an attack on all, these protesters say attacking Palestinians mean attacking all of us. Step Fasten, Al Jazeera, The Hague.
That still kills me, though, that the NATO summit was literally being held at The Hague. And you have every single one of those motherfuckers being complicit in one way, form, or another of the Israeli genocide against Palestinians and or supporting the violation of Iranian sovereignty. And they're at The Hague. So I guess if you're the criminals conducting the crimes, you go to the place where those crimes are meant to be, tried and prosecuted, you're not going to accuse yourselves. You're not going to turn yourselves in, are you? You're just going to keep on keeping on until you can throw one of them under the bus and take the fall for everybody, which would in this case be Trump. And even then, they don't have the balls to go after Trump. As of August 2024, Israel had been responsible for more than 17,000 attacks in the Middle East since October 17th, 2023. So that's not even a year. And they attacked the Middle East 17,000 times with U.S. armament.
Why is Amazon paying me $600 a day? Because I use Amazon AI.
How come some countries like mine and so many others in Africa are poor, while others like the US, Australia, New Zealand, all of those guys are rich? People saying it's malnutrition, people saying it's laziness, others saying, oh, it's racism, slavery, colonialism.
Are you against USAID?
Yeah, I am.
You are against sending millions of dollars to Africa.
I call foreign aid poison.
So how do you feel about capitalism?
That's when I finally stopped being a communist. I was a borderline
You are
communist.
communist?
I was borderline communist. Oh, yeah.
How are they using environmentalism to
Yes.
keep Africa
Right.
poor?
So, she was a communist, now she's a capitalist, but she thinks USAID is poison? Ma'am.
If you want freedom and flourishing, you need only 2 ingredients: freedom, and you need abundant, reliable, affordable energy. That's it.
In April 2025, 3 African presidents signed a deal so bold it sent silent shockwaves through Western capitals. No press conference, no IMF handshakes, no Western consultants. Just steel, signatures, and a promise. We'll build it ourselves. Burkina Faso, Mali, Niger. Together, they announced...
Yeah, what kind of opening was that? Is that even in the rest of the video? Was this like recorded as like one major hour-long thing and they just they forgot to cut that out of it? Okay. That was weird, but okay.
The high-speed railway connecting their capitals. But here's
Whoa,
the
whoa,
twist.
whoa, whoa, whoa. Whoa. Are you telling me right fucking now, on June 25th, Anno Dominum 2025, the year of our Lord, that Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger are going to have high-speed rail between their 3 countries before the United States even has any? Like, this isn't even about being judgmental. Like, if America is so great and so superior and so on and thus forth, and you see 3 African countries who have a combined GDP of maybe like Alabama, talking about creating super rail with high-speed rail without any foreign aid, and we can't even get high-speed rail in our country for $300 billion because, not that it actually costs that much, but Musk, everybody needs to sit the fuck down. Literally. If the starving, poor, backwards, third world countries of Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger can build high-speed rail, and we can't? What the fuck does that say about the United States of America? Holy shit.
Not a single cent is coming from the world.
To be clear, my policy is to invest heavily in infrastructure reform, to include building high-speed rail, to include federalizing all transportation in the country. So I want to be very clear that just because the current administration and every administration prior to are a bunch of fucking idiots, I am not.
World Bank, the IMF, or any former colonial power. But how did they make it possible?
Wow. Well, hold on. Well, now I'm feeling. So the project is called Ingenious. It analyzes the SOS transport system, identifies its limitations, and proposes a sustainable solution. Challenges include inadequate public transport and a heavy reliance on private cars. Sound familiar? The chosen scenario extends the Sahel Metro with a tram train system covering 87 kilometers and improving accessibility. The route follows existing roads and creates intermodal hubs. Again, very important to have the hubs. The analysis estimates a daily flow of 50,000 passengers, confirming the project's viability. Tram train operations present challenges but offer higher quality service. The fleet size of 38 tram trains is determined and infrastructure enhancements are planned. The project's total cost is estimated at, and I believe that's the euro symbol, at 707 million euro, so less than $1 billion, to make 87 kilometers worth of high-speed rail. Well, tram train rail, with subsidies needed to balance the finances. The socioeconomic assessment demonstrates positive impacts. The project will involve a balanced public-private structure, with the public-owned STTC managing construction and operation, and a private operator for the entire tram train line. Now, see, that part bothers me. It bothers me because private ownership of transportation is why we have a monopoly on air travel, and that is it in the United States of America. We do not have trains, we barely have buses, and we don't have sea travel other than for luxury via cruise lines. All of it should be public. Absolutely. Privatization is literally the cancer.
Let's find out.
Oh, the music's really fucking loud, but his voice is not.
This isn't some basic commuter rail or an upgrade of colonial leftovers. It's not a patchwork fix to broken infrastructure. What's being constructed is a new nervous system, a high-speed corridor engineered not just for movement, but for power. For the first time in modern West African history, a railway is being designed not to extract, but to connect. And this time, Africa decides where the tracks lead. The plan is simple in description, but revolutionary in intent. A high-speed rail network linking 3 capital cities, Ouagadougou, Bamako, and Niamey.
That's exactly what we should be doing. Granted, the way I envision our high-speed rail system is across the latitudes, and then across the longitudes at 500-mile intervals. All right, so from 500 miles from the top border of the United States, that rail will go all the way through, and I believe that cuts through Columbus, Ohio, and touches New York City and Washington, D.C., and it just goes across that latitude all the way to California. And then 500 miles from the West Coast over and down is when you do your rails up and down, and where they connect are going to be transportation hubs. And the reason for 500 miles is because it's intended to be high-speed rail, to the point of like being able to go as fast as the Chinese high-speed rail systems, which are approaching or exceeding the sound barrier. And that would be the point of it. You could transport between hubs by an hour, and you'd have rail alongside it for smaller distribution and smaller travel. And then, like you said, like he was saying, is it becomes veins. And that's exactly, we want the industrial rail systems to be able to transport goods from one coast to the other, or transport workers from one coast to the other in a matter of hours instead of days or months or weeks. So, yeah, we want a nice veiny country. Why can't I never do it on purpose? But then when I pick up, like my hand right here, veiny as fuck, but then I try and do it here, and I can't. Weird.
Larger system, bridges, stations, digital signaling, cross-border freight hubs, and a parallel highway that runs alongside the tracks. Together, these form a dual system, rail and road, capable of moving people, goods, and military logistics faster than ever before across AES territory. This is not about convenience, it's about control. These 3 countries have been cut off, geographically, economically, and politically, for decades. As landlocked states, they've always had to rely on ports in foreign hands, truck routes that pass through unstable zones, and financing dictated by faraway capitals. The new transport corridor is their answer to that old trap. It's also highly strategic. Every rail line passes through key agricultural zones, mining hubs, and industrial nodes. By design, the train will unlock domestic productivity, not just international exports. That's a massive departure from the usual pattern where African infrastructure is built around the needs of foreign buyers. Mineral to port, cocoa to ship, oil to terminal.
I got this from my grandpa, and now he's acting like he's 40 again. It's called the Jet Sono, and it's...
So remember how I just said, the rail system, it's important to have passenger rail. It's important to be able to commute to work and to other communities and cities and so on and so forth. But the ability to transport goods faster, cheaper, simpler, and in greater quantities all at once is exactly why rail is so important.
It's farm to city, factory to region, market to nation. And then there's speed. High-speed rail isn't just a fancy upgrade. It's a statement of ambition. These trains aren't meant to crawl through outdated lines at a colonial pace. They're designed to move at over 200 kilometers per hour, cutting travel time between capital cities from days to mere hours. That doesn't just improve business.
Yeah, Traore is
redefines
definitely
how people
fit.
relate to geography,
I am
how
not. My
families
legs
migrate,
are
how
screaming
services
because
are
I
delivered,
did
and how
barbell
crises
squats
are
for the
handled.
first time in probably 4 years. And I didn't even do that much weight or that many reps. And every time I sit down and stand back up, it's like I just got kicked in the thigh by an MMA fighter. It's terrible.
For instance, consider what it means for food. A tomato farmer in eastern Niger, who once lost half his crop to rot during transport, can now reach Bamako's markets before the produce spoils. A textile merchant in Ouagadougou can restock fabrics from Mali in a single day. Entire supply chains once deemed impossible become routine. The rail line doesn't just make markets faster, it makes them possible. But what's equally radical is the decision-making process itself. Most infrastructure in Africa is decided in boardrooms in Washington or Brussels. Not this time. The railway routes were mapped by African engineers, surveyed by local agencies, and approved by leaders who didn't need to ask anyone outside the Sahel for permission. And there's a symbolic touch that no one's talking about yet. The rail stations are being designed to reflect local architecture, not steel glass boxes imported from Europe or Asia. In Niamey, for instance, the central terminal will mirror the design of Hausa royal courts. In Ouagadougou, it will incorporate Mossi motifs. That's more than style, it's identity.
Wow.
And it signals a refusal to treat modernity and tradition as enemies.
Wow.
Even the materials speak of rebellion. While global construction firms often import everything, cement, tools, even workers, from abroad, the AES project emphasizes local procurement. Regional factories will supply the steel. African labor will lay the tracks. Universities are already establishing training programs for engineers, signaling technicians, and railway planners. This isn't just a train, it's a school.
That is literally stimulating an entire economy. You are literally building an entire economy around not just developing this rail once, but then to expand it, to maintain it, to build more, right? And then to teach the generations that come how to deal with the new infrastructure and the new possibilities that have been developed because of it. He just said it a second ago. New markets are possible because of rail. Markets are now becoming possible because of distribution. And every hub is going to create more cost of living. It's going to create more opportunities to live, to thrive, to build business. It's going to create schools, hospitals. It's going to necessitate grocery stores, housing, libraries, fire departments. Yeah, sure, maybe a little bit of law enforcement. Again, I think the role of law enforcement needs to be reassessed dramatically in terms of, well, that probably, the term needs to go away, and just societal engagement. Like whatever social programs exist, those can start popping up. But then you're going to have all your little shops, your bazaars, your cafes, your little hookah bars, regular bars, dance clubs, whatever else, your entertainment, your enjoyment. Every single one of these hubs is going to build a town which will turn into a city, which will cause these three countries to thrive economically in ways that they otherwise couldn't. That is literally the power of rail. You want to make any country great, build rail. And then get better software.
And yet, it would be a mistake to think this is only about economics. Yes, trade will grow. Yes, jobs will be created. But there's another force being transmitted along these tracks: security. Because the train route isn't just mapped along trade zones. It cuts through areas long destabilized by insurgency, foreign troops, and warlords. And so, this new line isn't just about moving civilians faster. It's about establishing sovereign presence in places where only rebels used to roam. It's the state taking back territory, not with soldiers, but with speed, steel, and presence. So when we ask, what are they building?
By
the answer
building
is simple.
stability so that these warlords and rebels don't need to exist anymore. People do not commit crimes unless they're broken if all of their material conditions are met. They just don't. People don't commit crimes if they can get jobs
to do the work, to get the money, to afford their material conditions and enjoy their livelihood. People just don't commit crimes. People are not wired to commit crimes. Now, that being said, people with means, but with excessive means, are drawn to commit crimes revolving around acquiring more. But we never talk about that, do we? No, we only talk about the poor people robbing other poor people or robbing rich people because they don't have the means to eat, let alone to live or sleep or survive. But we don't talk about white-collar criminals at all. The criminals who are violating our ecosystems, our atmosphere, our water, the very fucking air we breathe, the fact that we are fully contaminated globally with microplastics. Every single human being is contaminated with microplastics. We're not talking about that criminal behavior, that criminal activity. No, we're only talking about ever the poor people. So again, criminal behavior in terms of theft at smaller scales, like, you know, to survive, to eat, to sleep, to live, that's survival. Crime, true malicious behavior is always at the white collar level. Always. It's your manager not giving you a raise. It's your supervisor denying you a promotion to lead. It's your company not giving bonuses and laying people off. I mean, these are all crimes that we don't view as crimes because capitalism.
A weapon made of concrete.
Hi, Mr. Wonderful here.
Are you fucking shitting me? Dude, I know I paused it a couple times, but like, bro, your ads are insane.
A continent connected not just by tracks, but by will. But this raises an even bigger question. How are they paying for it? And why did they shut
Fuck off. You want to know how they're paying for it? Money doesn't fucking actually exist. They're paying for it because they said they're paying for it. Because their currency says so. That's how they're fucking paying for it. But of course, Africa also has valuable resources, so he's probably going to get into that.
Every major Western finance here. Let's pause for a second to say, big thank you to the Black Culture Diary community, where Black voices, stories, and legacies are preserved and amplified. By becoming a member, you're not just supporting the channel, you're becoming part of a powerful cultural movement. Let's continue. If the railway is the steel, the silence around its financing is the thunder. Because while the world watched the tracks, they missed the blueprint of money. And that's where the real revolution begins. You see, the most radical part of this project isn't the train, it's who's not allowed near it.
Oh.
No International Monetary Fund, no World Bank, no French Development Bank, not even the usual parade of Western partners who show up with billion-dollar promises and billion-condition contracts. This time, the Sahel didn't ask. It didn't submit feasibility studies for approval. It didn't beg for budget support or plead for leniency on debt ceilings. Instead, the Alliance of Sahel States AES created a regional investment bank, African-owned, African-governed, and African-funded. That silence you hear from Washington and Brussels, that's the sound of being cut out. But why such a clean break?
Nice.
Because the Sahel has learned a brutal truth.
I always say that Wall Street is the most crime-ridden area of New York City. Don't make me your White House press secretary, because when people asked me, how will you pay for it, I would reply with yo mama's ass. Honestly, the how would we pay for it? With the blood sacrifice of billionaires.
Financing isn't neutral, it's leverage. And for decades, infrastructure financing in Africa has acted less like a helping hand and more like a collar. The donors write the rules, choose the contractors, dictate the repayment schedule, and reserve the right to pull the plug anytime a country steps out of line. Ask any finance minister from the region.
I mean, that sounds exactly like capitalism anywhere.
Western loans are rarely about progress. They're about compliance. Compliance with macroeconomic frameworks, with military alliances, with foreign business interests, with privatization demands. The money comes with a manual, and failure to obey means the flow gets cut. Now imagine trying to build a nation's future with that kind of leash.
And see, that's the thing too. Capitalism is intrinsically autocratic. It is intrinsically autocratic. I have the money. You need the money. I will dictate the terms unilaterally and without condition. Otherwise, you don't get the money. And that is how every industry, every capitalist enterprise functions. Whether it's food, whether it's manufacturing, whether it's transportation, whether it's munitions, whether it's even administration or even insurance. But especially if it's construction and especially if it's, dealing with natural resources. We're the gold company of extraction. And if you do not let us extract 99.99% of all of the gold wealth out of your country, we're not going to give you the tools or equipment necessary to extract any of the gold. So sign here. Oh, and you need to allow us to station our private military and our national military from whom we ever are represented by. And you can't have public elections that go against this. Oh, and you can't hold elections with candidates that we don't approve of. So I need you to sign right here. Capitalism is literally a racket, definitively, and it is autocratic. It is pure authoritarianism. Every facet of capitalism is literally top-down, unilateral decision-making. Whether you're a manager dictating to your team, whether you're a plant manager dictating to all of your managers, whether you're a regional manager dictating to all of the plant managers, and so on until you get to the CEO. At the CEO level, you can dictate to elected leaders what they are going to fucking do because you're the one writing their campaign check. And then look at our laws. Why do U.S. laws so heavily favor corporations and the wealthy? I wouldn't have written a law like that. I personally would not have been like, oh, those poor billionaires, man, they really are paying too much taxes. Like, damn. Because when you really compare how much money the billionaires are paying compared to the collective taxation of the bottom 50%, these 8 billionaires equal to the same exact monetary amount as the remaining 165 million Americans. That doesn't seem fair. You're never going to hear me say that. And people, regular people wouldn't think that either. Regular people wouldn't give landlords unilateral authority to dictate rent and to continue to raise rent and then to not be able to break leases under any circumstances other than legal ones, such as domestic violence. And even then, a lot of states will still be like, well, is it really that big of a deal that your abuser knows where you live? I mean, come on. So, no. People do not write these laws. People would never even conceive to think of these laws because most of these laws are cruel, immoral, and unethical. Capitalists do. People with power do because they want to maintain their capital and power. So no, capitalism is an existential threat to humanity. Period. I am not a capitalist. I do believe that people should have the ability as individuals to pursue their dreams and make money off of it if they want to. But I draw the line at wherever the line is between owning a mom and pop shop cafe and maybe opening up 2 more locations in downtown and hiring servers and treating them well, giving them benefits and this, that, and the other. There's a line between that and fucking McDonald's and Starbucks. I don't know where that line is. I really don't, per se. I don't know if it's $1 million of revenue. I don't know if it's $10 million of revenue. I think it really is a case-by-case basis type deal because I worked for a privately owned company before and they were great and they made $7 million in revenue and they gave us bonuses every quarter and they paid us decently. I mean, I wasn't going to be able to retire anytime soon, but they paid us decently and they gave us the little bonuses. It was nice. They left me fucking alone. But how many of those exist alongside the same privately owned company that literally steals from their waitresses, from their workers, that literally treats them like slave labor, who hire undocumented immigrants and threaten them with deportation. Right? So there has to be a line somewhere. Maybe it's profit sharing. Profit sharing, I think you're right, would be at least a bare minimum. But there's got to be a point. There's a line. And whatever that line is, obviously no longer is defined as capitalism. Whatever that line is not capitalism. But whatever the line is, where people can run their own business and be heavily regulated and guided to make sure that they're not abusing their employees or creating unsafe products or materials or something like that, or illegal services, fraudulent services, whatever that line is and whatever we want to call that is what I support. But anything that starts getting to the point where businesses have any sort of influence, no. Now, granted, on my website, www.samronan.com, if you go to samronan.com/issues and scroll to the bottom-ish, I have industrial reorganization as a policy. And it reads, federalization of all industries and organization structures and oversight. I will share that in the channel. But fundamentally, the idea is that big industry, major industry, does not get to have a single fucking say in any fucking thing. No political influence, no money being spent, no politicization, no media. The only thing businesses are allowed to do is to conduct business. Period. Dot. Under extremely narrow conditions that are going to be dictated by the government through the consent of the people. And it's also going to be publicly owned. I mean, that's what this is saying, is that we are going to turn all industry from private to public. Public as in citizens, and with oversight and management by the government. Again, through the consent of the people. All right, just want to make sure that we still got some... Okay, we're not going to get through this whole video.
Leaders of Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger decided enough was enough. They understood that no sovereignty is complete until it includes financial sovereignty. So they chose the longer, harder road, self-financing. Not because it's easier, but because it's honest. The new investment bank isn't just a funding pool. It's a political firewall. It prevents outside
I like how he's just fist bumping everybody.
in procurement, project pacing, or labor hiring. It ensures decisions are made with regional priorities in mind, not the profit.
You know, I was going to say, Traoré is pretty muscular, but he has like something in the belly, but I'm like, oh, wait, no. A lot of bodybuilders have like a bigger belly, but it's just hard muscle. It's just larger obliques and abs, and it's like, nope, mine's pure, unmitigated fat.
Margins of European consultants, and it locks the power of the purse within the borders.
See what I'm saying? Like, I'm not body shaming him. I think he's just broader. Like, I just think he has a larger stature.
But even more fascinating is how they're funding this bank. Unlike typical state funds backed by external borrowing, the AES Bank will be capitalized through a mix of national resource revenues, diaspora bonds, and sovereign guarantees pooled between the three member states. In short, they are monetizing their own gold, uranium, cotton, and energy
as they should.
Not to extract and export, but to build and retain. This is a structural shift. It challenges the old colonial pipeline where Africa digs, ships, and waits for aid in return. Now, the same resources that once left the continent in silence are being
transformed. True, it could be a bulletproof vest or some such.
Of course, this approach invites risk. Critics argue that the Sahel states, under sanctions, facing insurgencies, and with limited reserves, cannot...
Yeah, but why are they facing insurgencies? Let's just ask that question real quick. Let's just address that Saharan elephant in the room, that Republican elephant in the room. Let's really ask the question: why are there insurgents in these African countries in the first place? Why are these countries
unstable in the first place? Why would there be instability and insurgency and terrorism and sanctions and whatever the else negative stuff you want to talk about in these countries who have shrugged off Western imperialism and colonialism? Gee, I wonder why.
Not shoulder such massive infrastructure costs alone. But here's the counterpoint. Every nation that's ever industrialized did so by taking control of its capital.
Sure
Whether
did.
it was post-war Europe with the Marshall Plan, China with its state banks, or the US with the New Deal, no country ever...
Why the fuck would you have showed Donald Trump as the New Deal? Are you fucking stupid? Like, sorry, I just get very...
by outsourcing its ambition. Besides, the AES Bank isn't entirely closed to outside funds. It's closed to outside control. Nations like China, Turkey, the UAE, and even Russia have expressed interest in co-financing specific parts of the corridor, not as masters, but as partners. The door is open, but only to those willing to sit at the table, not above it. And then there's the political symbolism. By rejecting Western finance, the Sahel states are rejecting the entire machinery of neocolonialism.
I love hearing the whole description of how Burkina Faso, Niger, and Mali are just rejecting colonialism. But he literally spends 15 minutes of his videos repeating the same thing, that these countries have rejected Western imperialism, which is great. I love hearing it. But we are running out on time here. So I kind of want to summarize what we've kind of talked about. Actually, I think we did cover everything that we really wanted to talk about. We really did. Okay, cool. So, sorry. One of these days I'll have good software. I mean, this has served its purpose, but like, it's really finicky. But yeah, today has been a roller coaster of emotions and a very poignant look at where the United States stands in all of these issues. And the United States is part of all of these issues, to include the African issues. Because, make no mistake, we are part of that problem. We are part of the problem of extracting wealth from Africa and dictating the terms and sending the insurgents and funding the insurgents and creating the instability in the region, whether it's that region or any other part of Africa. Never mind South America, which I guess we didn't cover parts of South America today. But regardless, the world continues to devolve into madness. Western nations continue to embrace fascism, continue to devolve into racist, discriminatory activities with white supremacy at the forefront. And it is a huge, disturbing problem that the exact same, like literally the exact same historical conditions that led to World War II are presenting themselves again in Europe and the United States. Fascism, inequality, racism, discrimination, all of it. Women's rights being revoked, anti-immigration, isolationism, ultranationalism. All these things are making a resurgence. Capitalism gaining control of every fucking market and the government itself. These are all the same things that happened in the 1920s in the first place, which led to the Great Depression in the 1930s, which directly led to World War II. Except now, it's 2025, we have AI, social media, and smart weapons that can far and exceed the sound barrier, and we even have quantum technology involved in our military technologies. Oh, and I forgot, enough nuclear weapons to end all life on Earth many, many times over. The material conditions of the present can and will determine the conditions of the future. And as president, it's up here now. As president, it is my duty and obligation to ensure that that future is one in which we can all thrive, not merely survive. So on that note, tomorrow is our weekly recap
whatever we missed day. So I hope to see you all tomorrow at 7, and we will catch up on whatever nonsense has happened in the 24 hours between then and now. Have a great evening, everybody. See you.